Chapter 635, The End of the War. Alright, I admit defeat. Marshal Saint Finion's face turned ashen and he looked extremely depressed. He spoke indifferently, as if he had aged decades. All the experts and the army did not understand what was going on. They did not know why the Fenian Marshal Saint had admitted defeat. However, only the person involved understood that after Marshal Saint Fenion entered the Nine Skies Star, he felt his entire body being confined. Even if he used the Marshal Saint's aura, he had to reverse his meridians and true origin to forcefully use it. After that attack, his true essence quickly flowed out, and he could not even move his fingers. What terrified him was that he was like an ant in the nine skies of stars. Li Lingtian's consciousness was everywhere. As long as Li Lingtian used his divine consciousness, he would be destroyed instantly. In this way, Li Lingtian would be injured but he would die. Therefore, they could only admit defeat at this time. If they continued to struggle, it would not be good for either of them. There was another problem. He did not wish to perish together as he cherished his talent. He did not want to fall and injure Li Lingtian. If the Nine Skies Stars were to backfire, Li Lingtian would definitely suffer a devastating blow. Everything was fleeting clouds. He now understood that at this moment, admitting defeat was instead free and easy. Crash! Li Lingtian's figure vanished in a strange manner, and so did the independent world of the Nine Skies of Stars. When he reappeared, Li Lingtian was already above the city wall. He looked at the Wind Cloud Marshal Saint indifferently. It was not that he did not believe in the Wind Cloud Marshal Saint, but he did not believe in this world. If he took away the Nine Skies Stars, he would inevitably be attacked by the Wind Cloud Marshal Saint. Everything between heaven and earth recovered. The entire army looked at Li Lingtian on the city wall with admiration. The strong had no country, and the warriors only worshipped the true strong. Sir Lingtian, goodbye in Moonsong Kingdom. In the sky, the Wind Cloud Marshal Saint looked at Li Lingtian and spoke loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and disappeared strangely. However, the moment the Wind Cloud Marshal Saint disappeared, a scream sounded in the sky. Ah, ah, ah. Puff, puff, puff. A series of screams came from Cheng Tianfeng and the others. The screams resounded throughout the world. At this moment, the Fenian Marshal Saint was already far away in the sky. The speed of the wind element was heaven-defying, coming and going without a trace. However, Cheng Tianfeng and the others began to fall, and their vitality quickly disappeared. 3/3 Sky Marshal Saints and 2 First Sky Marshal Saints had fallen. This change shocked the entire army. They never expected the Wind Cloud Marshal Saint to help Li Lingtian by eliminating 3/3 Heaven Marshal Saints and 2 First Heaven Marshal Saints. Under such circumstances, the morale of the armies of the 6 dynasties was completely gone. Kill them. Seeing this, Heavenly Monster King and Marshal Saint Yunhao gave the order. Immediately, the battle between the two armies began again. The tragic battle between Marshal Saints appeared in the sky again. 3/3 Sky Marshal Saints and 2 First Sky Marshal Saints had fallen, leaving only 5 Marshal Saints in the 6 Nations army. On the Qing Xian side, Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the other 2 were all 3rd Sky Marshal Saints, as well as a dozen First Sky Marshal Saints. Under the reversal of the situation, all the Marshal Saint experts of the 6 states' armies had fallen. Kill them! Kill them! Kill them! The heaven-shaking shouts, the destructive attacks of the flaming gold demonic dragons, and the slaughter of the Divine Wind Legion and Divine Dragon Legion caused the hearts of the armies of the 6 dynasties to tremble. They had no intention of fighting and were completely prepared to flee. However, a dozen Marshal Saints from the Qing Xian Kingdom had arrived far away and completely blocked their escape route. As long as a Marshal Emperor expert escaped, he would unleash a destructive attack to kill him instantly. I'll travel all over the Black Continent and fight for the world for young master. Sweep the world, rule the world for the young lord. The morale of the army soared. Li Lingtian's strength had become the soul of the army. All the powerhouses and the army were engaged in a constant battle. The hot-blooded nature of a man was fully displayed at this moment. Shouts of killing continued, but Li Lingtian did not stop. Even if the Six Nations army surrendered, Li Lingtian had no intention of showing any mercy. Alright, those who submit, stay. Those who don't submit, destroy them. After half an hour, the armies of the Six Dynasties and Qing Xian had lost more than 2 million men. Li Lingtian looked pleased as countless martial emperor and supreme realm powerhouses had submitted to him. There were also countless who were killed by martial saints. His iron-blooded methods made the armies of the world afraid. He waved his hand and said to Shenyuan Bailing. After he finished speaking, he descended and came to Tang Qingyue and the others with a gentle smile on his face. No matter what he did outside, he had to be gentle in front of his women because they were his wives and loved each other for life. Come, Qingqing, let uncle hug you. Li Lingtian walked up to Shenyuan Yingying and called out to Shenyuan Qingqing. The smile on his face had a hint of kindness. Imperial uncle is so powerful. By the way, uncle, are you tired? Why don't Qingqing hug uncle when he's not tired? Shenyuan Qingqing happily ran to Li Lingtian's side and threw herself into his arms. Li Lingtian hugged her in his arms with a smile on his face. Shenyuan Qingqing looked at Li Lingtian with concern when she saw that he was injured from the battle. Her bright eyes sized him up as she spoke in a sweet voice. Yes, uncle is not tired. Li Lingtian's face was filled with joy, but his heart was filled with satisfaction. This little girl's words were heartwarming. Huangfu Yuyan and the others were extremely happy. Only at this moment did they feel like they were at home. After that, the group of people looked at the battle below. At this time, the battle had basically reached the end. They were all fighting with a bit of physical strength and the will to survive. Those who obey will prosper, and those who rebel will die. Those who submit, stay. Those who resist, die. Shenyuan Bailing shouted loudly. At this moment, he appeared and commanded the entire battlefield. In short, all the armies of the 6 states had submitted. Even martial venerables and martial emperors had submitted. If they did not submit, they would die. No one wanted to die. In an instant, the battle stopped. The Qing Xian army quickly gathered together. Although they looked tired, they were excited. The Qing Xian nation had used a single nation to defend against the combined attack of 6 other nations, and in the end, they had completely defeated the 6 nations. Furthermore, they had witnessed the might of young Emperor Li Lingtian. The entire Qing Xian army was extremely excited. Li Lingtian led Tang Qingyue and the others away from the city wall. The other matters were naturally handled by Qing Xian's generals. The Divine Wind and Divine Dragon legions would also need to be developed and incorporated at this time. He had nothing to do here, and with his current status, he naturally wouldn't do such ordinary things. The gains from this battle were beyond his imagination. He had destroyed the armies of the 6 dynasties and killed the 3rd sky of the martial saint realm in front of the armies of the world. He had shown his power. Facing the experts of the world, he had fought against the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom and defeated a 5th heaven martial saint. This had made his name known. This way, it would bring immeasurable benefits to the development of the army. Furthermore, more than 2 million of the 6 nations' army had fallen. The rest had been incorporated into Li Lingtian's army. The martial emperors, martial supremes, and martial emperors had become powerful armies under Li Lingtian's command. The existence of the flaming gold demonic dragon was undoubtedly a killing weapon in a war. Just by throwing this dragon into the army, it could determine the outcome of a war. This time, Li Lingtian's heaven-defying strength shocked the various countries and left the 6 nations in fear. The 6 states joined forces to attack Qing Xian with the intention of annexing the country. However, they did not expect Li Lingtian to double the number and kill all 7 million of the 6 states' troops. All the martial saints were killed and the martial emperors were subdued. With the army reorganized, Qing Xian's influence and Li Lingtian's influence soared. With so many spiritual stones and resources entering Qing Xian, the 6 states were like ants on a hot pan, not knowing what to do. They were the ones who had started the war. Now that they had been destroyed by the other party would definitely not let it go. These things were all from the outside world. Li Lingtian led Tang Qing and the others back to Yuran Palace to rest. This battle was not only a victory on the surface, but he had also gained a lot of benefits. The storage pouch of a martial saint and the experience of a great battle. If he used the 9 heaven stars to defeat a true expert, he would have a better understanding of his own forces. He didn't need any other treasures. He only needed skills and divine arts to establish himself in the world. When one's cultivation realm reached their level, weapons were rarely used. Unless it was a supreme saint artifact like the Tianyu sword or a divine artifact, other weapons were useless. However, it was risky to use the 9 skies stars at the end. If he killed the Windcloud martial saint, he would be severely injured. He now understood that his cultivation was still too low. He had to raise his cultivation. Moreover, his strength had already been exposed. The strength of his army had also been exposed. The other countries, kingdoms, and supreme experts would definitely not let him off. He had to raise his cultivation and transform all kinds of heaven-defying treasures and skills into divine powers. Otherwise, he would be schemed against by other experts. The other super experts were not fools. Knowing that you had the 9 heaven stars, they would definitely think of a way to plot against you. If they wanted to take the initiative, they would have to attack in other areas. After returning to the Yuran Palace, he began to cultivate in seclusion. He meditated and cultivated in his room for half a month. The 4th heaven martial emperor realm was already at the peak of the complete realm. He was only a step away from breaking through to the 5th heaven. If one reached the 5th heaven, their cultivation would skyrocket. No matter what realm one was at, the 4th and 5th heavens were completely different worlds. It was the same for the 8th heaven and 9th heaven. Not to mention the supreme realm, even the martial emperors below the supreme realm were completely different. However, it was not so easy to reach the 5th heaven. One needed some opportunities. He had a lot of medicinal pills, but it was no longer possible to increase his cultivation now. When his cultivation reached the peak of perfection, he could only look for an opportunity to break through. Although he was anxious about his cultivation, he also understood that this kind of thing could not be rushed. If his cultivation could not break through, he would cultivate his skills and nourish his treasures. There were countless things he had to do. Just the treasures and skills alone were enough for him to cultivate for a period of time. Every day was full, but half of the time was spent with his wife and teaching Qingqing. Chapter 636. The beginning of the battle. Half a month had passed and Li Lingtian had gained a lot. The experience gained from fighting against experts was gained by risking one's life. It was impossible to gain true experience without danger. A month had passed since the war. During this month, the 6 nations were shocked. Martial saints had fallen, and the 7 million soldiers had never returned. Moreover, the news of the battle between the Windcloud martial saint and Li Lingtian, one of the 10 great martial saints in Moonsong Kingdom, had spread throughout the kingdom. A martial emperor powerhouse had mastered the 5 elements, will of the great perfection, and cultivated the 9 heavenly stars. He had also cultivated his sword intent and sword force. He was at the 4th heaven of the martial emperor realm and had defeated one of the 10 great martial saints. The appearance of such a heaven-defying expert shook the entire Moonsong Kingdom. Countless experts didn't believe it, but the army had seen it, so no one would spread the rumor. Besides, the Fengyan martial saint, one of the 10 great martial saints, didn't say anything, so he naturally agreed. The war had begun, and the Moonsong Kingdom was about to be thrown into chaos. Countless countries began to withdraw their troops and experts, preparing for the arrival of the war. Their main focus was on Qingxian. The core members of the 6 nations were all in a constant state of panic. Li Lingtian's strength was heaven-defying. Furthermore, the Windcloud martial saint had eliminated 3/3 heaven martial saints from the 6 nations. This was enough to prove that the Windcloud martial saint had helped Li Lingtian. Even though the two of them had a great battle, they had helped Li Lingtian in the end. This meant that both of them were optimistic about Li Lingtian. It was the Six Nations' bad luck to have provoked someone they shouldn't have. It was too late for regrets now. As time passed, although the Qing Xian kingdom did not make any moves to take revenge, the Six Nations became more and more uneasy because the Qing Xian kingdom was reorganizing their army. They gathered their forces and formed an army of over 10 million soldiers to guard Qing Xian. 3 million of them were martial kings. Moreover, the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion had more than 400,000 people. Such an army would make any country afraid. In Qing Xian, all the armies were reorganized. They knew that the war had not really begun. Once the army was reorganized, it would be the time for the war in Xian continent to break out. Li Lingtian had personally visited the drill ground a few times. His presence boosted morale. Millions of troops were reorganized and would sweep out at Li Lingtian's command. On this day, Li Lingtian brought Tang Qingyue and the others to the drill ground. Qing Xian's territory was 1,000 miles wide, and it was a place for training. By the time Li Lingtian arrived, the 3 million strong army had already been reorganized and gathered in the drill ground. The army of 3 million soldiers was extremely excited. Although the fate of the war was uncertain, and hundreds of thousands of people would die at any time, for a man, a hot-blooded man, a war was their battlefield. Moreover, there were generous rewards for great battles, and the storage pouches obtained belonged to them. In other words, the battlefield was a place for killing and robbing treasures. The only difference was that there was a target for killing and robbing treasures. They were killing the enemy, not their own army. Young Master D, Young Master D. Young Master D, Young Master D. Li Lingtian's arrival brought cheers from the 3 million strong army. Their voices were like thunder that shook the 9 heavens. Li Lingtian was extremely satisfied with the army. After all, the army was at least a warrior king. With 3 million soldiers, it was enough to shake the other 10 million soldiers or even make them stronger. Moreover, Li Lingtian had specially researched several formations that were suitable for use in a war. A formation formed by 100 soldiers was equivalent to 1,000 soldiers. Coupled with the orderly strength of a warrior king, it would be more advantageous during a war. Li Lingtian waved his hand and stopped talking. Step by step, he walked up the tall steps. There were more than a dozen super experts standing respectfully on top. Each of these powerhouses was a 9th heaven martial emperor and a general of an army. They had been specially trained to command in battle. A great battle relied on true strength to kill, but a good general could save countless soldiers from destruction. Marshal Saint Yunhao and the others stood at the side. There were a total of 15 Marshal Saint experts. Although they did not attack, they could suppress the Marshal Saint experts. I won't say anything more. In a great war, there will be destruction and new life. A man must train in blood and fire to become a true expert. The winds and clouds in Xianzhou are surging. I'm going to fight for the world. I'll start with you. Can you become my vanguard? Li Lingtian arrived at the top of the stairs and his body exploded with a shocking aura. One of them was the powerful aura of a superior, while the other was the aura of a sovereign. He didn't need to say anything or show anything. All the troops had seen him fight and defeat a heaven-defying 5th Sky Martial Saint expert. There was no need to explain. One sentence was enough to raise the morale of the army. Yes, become young Master D's vanguard. Wherever he goes, he will be invincible. I'm willing to pave the way for young Master D, sweep the Xian continent, and unify the world. All the soldiers replied loudly, their voices shaking the sky and spreading thousands of miles away. Li Lingtian's morale was also rising steadily as he smiled. Then, Marshal Saint Yunhao and Heavenly Demon King talked about the rewards and compensation for the war. There were deaths and lives in the war. Even if they died, they had to give an explanation to their families. If they won, they would receive additional rewards. Every time you kill an opponent, you will be rewarded with the corresponding pills and spirit stones. The wealth obtained from killing the opponent belongs to you, but the medicinal herbs and materials will be handed over. Similarly, our young master is a super saint alchemist. He is an existence that refines a Tier 7 peerless great rejuvenating pill. All the pills he refines are peerless existences. As long as you can kill your opponents and survive, you will have the chance to obtain the peerless medicinal pills personally refined by the young master. Those who have made significant contributions and battle merits can apply for guidance from the young master. Yunhao Martial Saint said loudly at the end. This was undoubtedly what the army wanted to hear the most. This was because Li Lingtian had become their legend and legend. They managed to dig up all the information about Li Lingtian in the past, but it was all from Shenzhou. However, some people knew that Li Lingtian was a powerhouse who had crossed over from another place. Li Lingtian's heaven-defying abilities had already made them admire him to the extreme. A super divine alchemist, a 23-year-old divine alchemist and a heaven-defying powerhouse. Everything about him was simply a myth, an existence that surpassed myths. Furthermore, the pills refined by Li Lingtian had broken the legends of the divine martial continent. All the pills were peerless and even mutated. If they could obtain the elixir refined by Li Lingtian, they would gain experience and their cultivation base would improve. They would then become powerhouses. I'll do anything for young Master D. I will sweep the Black Continent and unify the world for young Master D. The entire army was incomparably excited as they shouted in unison. A warrior's life was all about survival, power, and power. War was the law of power and survival. All right. I've ordered an all-out attack on the Black Civ Kingdom. Li Lingtian stepped forward and waved his hand. As the soul of an army, he believed that his every move was guided by the countless armies. Boom! Tong! Boom! Tong! The war drums shook the sky, and the army swept out of the drill ground like a machine that swept the world. The 3 million soldiers were all at the Martial King realm and above. On the left was the Divine Wind Legion, and on the right was the Divine Dragon Legion. The two legions and the 6 million ordinary soldiers charged toward the Qing Luo kingdom. The speed of an army formed by experts above the Martial King realm was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the 3 million strong army disappeared from the drill ground, rushing into the distance. Husband, you can't refine pills during this period of time, right? Shun Mei stood by Li Lingtian's side as she watched the army leave. During this period of time, Li Lingtian was either recuperating, resting, or cultivating. He did not refine any pills at all. The number of pills used by the army was shocking. If he took it out as a reward, the number would be huge. Although only a portion of the army had obtained the pills he refined, even ordinary pills were shocking. It's impossible to refine pills. I have to supervise the war between the 6 nations. I have to wipe them out in a short time. But we still have other things to do. The serious expression on Li Lingtian's face relaxed. This was the first time the army had taken the initiative to attack another country, so they had to be careful. Although the army was powerful, accidents were inevitable. For example, the Wind Cloud Martial Saint appeared last time. If it wasn't for his heaven-defying abilities, Qing Xian would definitely be finished. Although such a thing might happen, they still had to be on guard. Moreover, the movement in Qing Xian Kingdom had already attracted the attention of the other kingdoms in Moonsong Kingdom, and countless super experts were watching them. He could not let any accidents happen. Even if they did, he had to nip them in the bud. What is it? Tang Zimeng looked at Li Lingtian curiously. As they spent more time together, their feelings for each other grew deeper and deeper. The girls were all clingy with Li Lingtian. However, they knew their limits. They stood silently behind Li Lingtian at all times to encourage and support him. Although Qing Xian doesn't have any saint alchemists, there are still quite a number of spirit alchemists. We just need to make a public announcement and countless pill refiners or disciples with talent in pill refining will come. When the time comes, we will nurture them and these pill refiners will grow rapidly. The growth of an alchemist is the accumulation of countless medicinal herbs and resources. The reason why some families, commanderies, and even countries can't cultivate alchemists is because of the lack of resources and medicinal herbs. I have countless medicinal herbs. I can use the medicinal herbs from the battlefield to train pill refiners. It won't be a problem to train a few pill refiners. Even if there aren't any saint alchemists, we can still produce countless spirit alchemists and pill grandmasters. At that time, we can refine pills from level 1 to level 6. The appearance of pills that we can size up will become the cohesion of the army. Li Lingtian's lips curled into a smile. With money, nothing was a problem. In this world, or even in another world, problems that could be solved with money were not problems. Qing Xian did not lack talents, but they lacked a person to guide them. He was confident that he could unearth those talents. Chapter 637, Xiaoyao Dynasty, 1, IC. Huang Fuyuyan finally understood what Li Lingtian meant. She was smart and knowledgeable, but there were times when she did not expect it. Li Lingtian rarely made decisions, but he always thought about everything carefully. The army needed an endless supply of medicinal pills. It was naturally not enough for him alone. However, Qing Xian did not lack manpower. Naturally, they needed to use it. At that time, countless alchemists will become Big Brother Ling Tian's disciples and serve Big Brother Ling Tian. Xianyuan Yingying was elated as well. She could already imagine the scene of tens of thousands of alchemists working for Li Lingtian. Everyone knew how heaven-defying Li Lingtian was and how capable he was. He had countless armies, but if he had an endless number of alchemists, he could control the fate of a kingdom or even an empire. Medicinal pills were as important to martial artists as humans were to air and water. Li Lingtian's control of alchemy Dao was equivalent to controlling the fate of the warriors and the fate of the world. However, before he could control the fate of the world, he had to control his own fate. This required him to become stronger. Let's go back first. In 2 days, I'll reorganize the Divine Martial Army and the War God Army. I'll also need to build a battleship army. Li Lingtian smiled gently as he watched the girls chattering away. No matter what the occasion was, he would always be gentle in front of his women because they were his family and his lovers. That's right. Big Brother's War God is also extremely powerful. When the time comes, we can build some war gods. That way, we can sweep the world. Darling's War God is indeed powerful, but you have to be careful of the kingdom and empire's ferocious gazes. The Divine Martial Army and the War God Army that Ling Tian mentioned have quite a number of people. However, try not to let the other kingdoms know about this, let alone the empire. That's right. After all, these 2 legions are too heaven-defying. If the other empires and kingdoms find out about this, they will definitely understand our goal. They will take advantage of the fact that we haven't become strong to eliminate us. If that happens, it will definitely be disadvantageous for us. The girls voiced their opinions after hearing Li Lingtian mention the Divine Martial Army and the War God Army. Li Lingtian kept nodding his head as he kept their opinions in mind. Even though he had a plan in mind, he did not underestimate the girls' opinions. Sometimes, a smart person would be muddle-headed for a while. He did not want to be muddle-headed at all, because after this muddle-headed person, there would be no disaster. Yes, we still have a lot of things to do during this period of time. Let's conserve our strength. When the time comes, the war will truly erupt. Right now, it's just a small fight. Li Lingtian nodded as he spoke calmly before leading Tang Genji and the others back to Yuran Palace. The 6 nations were shaken as the 3 million-strong army of Qing Xian charged towards the Qing Civ nation with a shocking might. Countless experts had witnessed the army of the Qing Xian kingdom and were shocked. Even though the Qing Civ kingdom was powerful, it was not much weaker than the Qing Xian kingdom. However, in the previous war between the 6 countries, the Qing Civ kingdom had lost countless troops and experts. The 3rd and 1st Heaven Martial Saints had fallen, and their morale was low. Even the combined armies of the 6 dynasties were no match for Qing Xian. Now that Qing Xian's army was several times stronger than before, and they were attacking the Qing Civ kingdom, the entire Qing Civ kingdom was shaken. Moreover, Li Lingtian's reputation was heaven-defying, so they were all extremely afraid. The entire kingdom knew about the commotion in Qingxian, but Moonsong Kingdom didn't say anything. In the eyes of the kingdom, the war between the kingdoms was nothing to them. As long as the kingdom sent any army or expert, they could wipe out the kingdoms. However, what happened next caught the attention of the kingdom. On the first day of the war, the Black Sif Kingdom was destroyed. Within a day, the Qingxian Kingdom had conquered the Qing Sif Kingdom. Countless martial saints were trapped by the formations of the Qingxian Kingdom. The flaming gold demonic dragon swept through the Qing Sif Kingdom and conquered the cities within an hour. The war ended in 3 hours. Out of the 11 martial saints, 6 had fallen and 5 had submitted. On the second day of the battle, the Tianluo Kingdom was destroyed. Out of the 16 martial saints, 6 had fallen and 10 had surrendered. On the third day of the battle, the Blackwater Kingdom was destroyed. 6 of the 9 martial saints died, and 3 surrendered. On the fourth day of the battle, the Southern School Nation was destroyed. Out of the 11 martial saints, 2 had fallen and 9 had submitted. On the fifth day of the battle, Yen Liguo was destroyed. Out of the 6 martial saints, 3 had fallen and 3 had submitted. On the sixth day of the battle, the Dongming country surrendered unconditionally. All 13 martial saints surrendered. In just 6 days, the 6 dynasties were destroyed and all of them were conquered by Qingxian. Instantly, the Divine Wind Legion had reached 600,000 troops, while the Divine Dragon Legion had reached 500,000 troops. Moreover, the Divine Martial Army had been officially established in the main world. The entire Divine Martial Army was made up of martial emperor powerhouses. The Divine Martial Army, which had not appeared all this while, now had more than 50,000 members. They were all made up of martial emperor powerhouses. Furthermore, all the martial emperor powerhouses who had submitted to him had entered the Divine Martial Army. A portion of the martial saint powerhouses had entered the army to hold the line for the 3 great armies while a portion had returned to the Qingxian Kingdom. The army of Qingxian had attacked 6 countries in 6 days. The number of soldiers had reached 7 million, and their strength was getting stronger and stronger. Countless wealth had entered Qingxian's hands, and countless martial emperors and martial saints had become generals under Heaven Demon King and martial saint Yunhao. Martial Saint Ming Luo was also the commander of the Divine Martial Army. In his hands, an army of 50,000 martial emperor powerhouses could be considered a killing weapon in a war. The Divine Martial Army was also in existence that supervised the Divine Wind Army and the Divine Dragon Army. They specialized in dealing with martial saints and cities that were difficult to attack. The appearance of these 3 legions and the destruction of the 6 nations completely shook the kingdom. An army of 7 million elites, 3 invincible legions, they had an unstoppable momentum, they were invincible. Currently, there were a total of 33 martial saints in the army. 20 of them were in the Divine Martial Army while the rest were in the Divine Wind Army and the Divine Dragon Army. The martial saint powerhouses who submitted returned to Qingxian and Li Lingtian's side to receive his guidance. The destruction of the 6 nations had caused Qingxian's reputation to soar. However, Li Lingtian gradually retreated behind the scenes. Countless countries knew about the 3 great armies, Qingxian, but they rarely knew about Li Lingtian. However, the true powerhouses and higher-ups were not afraid of the 3 great armies but Li Lingtian, who was hiding behind the scenes. After the victory of the war, Qingxian reorganized their army and consolidated the territories of the 6 kingdoms. The 6 kingdoms still existed, but the rulers had to be determined by Qingxian. Because Qingxian was their master, they had to listen to Qingxian's orders. The royal kingdom was enraged. The Qingxian kingdom was undoubtedly trying to shake the status of the royal kingdom and compete with the royal kingdom for the world. In the past, the royal kingdoms had thought that the war between the kingdoms was nothing more than for status. Qingxian attacking the 6 kingdoms was revenge. Now, they saw that the situation was not right. Qingxian wanted to destroy the royal kingdoms and replace them. Li Lingtian issued an oracle. The 7 kingdoms of Qingluo, Qingxian, Tianluo, Blackwater, Nanshao, Dongming, and Yanlai would be merged to form the Xiaoyao dynasty. The Qingxian country was the headquarters of the Xiaoyao dynasty, and the 7 countries had to obey the Xiaoyao dynasty's rule. The entire army was reorganized and the entire country was unified to deal with all kinds of wars and provocations. The Xiaoyao dynasty is officially established. Anyone who dares to provoke the Xiaoyao dynasty will be destroyed. An oracle spread throughout the 7 kingdoms, and the army cheered. All the troops were reorganized and awaiting Li Lingtian's orders. After conquering a territory, they still needed to reorganize. A true warrior did not attack and kill, but consolidated his spoils of war. Li Lingtian wanted to consolidate his territory as firmly as an iron bucket because he had accepted the blow from Moonsong Kingdom. The Moonsong Kingdom was the ruler of the 36 countries. Now that the Qing Xian Kingdom had become the free and unfettered dynasty, there was no doubt that they wanted to destroy the Moonsong Kingdom. He wasn't arrogant. Even though he had easily attacked a few countries, he knew that he didn't have the strength to fight against the Moonsong Kingdom. Just the martial saint of the Moonsong Kingdom was not someone he could deal with. Moreover, the countries that he attacked were basically low-grade countries. There were also medium-grade countries and high-grade countries. There were many experts in them. If he wanted to attack these countries, he had to strengthen his own forces. Putting aside the army, the main thing was to nurture a true martial saint powerhouse who could fight a 5th heaven martial saint head-on. The Wind Cloud martial saint alone was enough to give him a headache. Moreover, the Wind Cloud martial saint was only one of the 10 great martial saints. There must be someone more powerful than the Wind Cloud martial saint among them. Many experts didn't even bother to fight for the position of the 10 great martial saints. Therefore, those hidden super experts were also a threat. Now, he had to consolidate his territory and strengthen his power and strength. After the war, the entire country was reorganized. In half a month, the smoke from the war seemed to have disappeared into thin air. The countries changed dynasties, and new rulers appeared. Those who submitted were nurtured, and those who resisted were destroyed. Qing Xian was still Qing Xian. The Xiaoyao Empire was just a name, the soul of a country. However, everything had to be approved by the Xiaoyao dynasty. On that day, Li Lingtian posted a message. The release of this information immediately caused countless people to go crazy. Freedom King Dynasty's young emperor's decree: as long as you have talent in pill concoction and weapon forging, as well as genius in array formations, all of them are able to enter the Carefree Dynasty for the assessment and receive Li Lingtian's guidance. The news quickly spread throughout the Qing Xian Kingdom. In an instant, countless commanderies had heard of it. In a short 3 days, this news had spread throughout the 7 countries. Countless geniuses of array Dao, alchemy Dao, and craftsmanship Dao had rushed to the southern mountain city of Qing Xian. Li Lingtian was a super holy alchemist and a super holy array master. If he could receive Li Lingtian's guidance, he would have a bright future ahead of him. If he became Li Lingtian's disciple, his status would skyrocket. With that, countless inns in southern Peak City were packed to the brim. Countless array Dao, alchemy Dao, and weapon refining Dao geniuses came to southern Peak City to accept Li Lingtian's assessment in hopes of entering the Carefree Dynasty. Chapter 638, Expansion of Power. 1. Young Master D is recruiting alchemists and array masters. Not only that, but there should also be blacksmiths. As long as they pass young Master D's test, there's hope for them to stay and work for young Master D and receive guidance from him. That's right. Young Master D is a super alchemy saint and an alchemy saint expert. That's right. Even the 3 saint alchemists of the Xian continent aren't as powerful as a super saint alchemist who can concoct a level 7 peerless grade great cyclic pellet. If I can be valued by young Master D and become his disciple, my future will be limitless. Young Master D's disciple, even an ordinary princess might not be able to compare. That's right. As long as you're close to young Master D, you can call the wind and summon the rain. However, only true array Dao and alchemy Dao geniuses can receive young Master D's guidance. If young Master D were to give pointers, how would he have so much time? Li Lingtian's oracle was everywhere in the 7 nations. Countless genius disciples had gathered in southern Peak City. In an instant, Southern Peak City was bursting with popularity, reaching a peak. If there was a place in Moonsong Kingdom that was the most lively, it would naturally be Southern Peak City. The cohesiveness of a saint alchemist and a saint array master could be seen at this moment. Furthermore, Li Lingtian was a super divine alchemist, a super divine array master, a super powerful powerhouse, and the existence of a martial emperor defeating one of the 10 great martial saints. However, the legend in everyone's hearts began his war god structure in the Yuran Palace. The war god was indeed powerful, but it was not enough to deal with a martial supreme. However, it would not pose much of a threat to a martial saint. Therefore, he wanted to change the war god. He would strive to increase his power and defense. That way, he would be able to withstand the attack of a martial saint expert. A full, powered attack would also be able to threaten a martial saint expert. 3 days later, Li Lingtian walked out of his room with a faint smile on his face. There was a huge blueprint in his hand. On it was a drawing of a huge warship. Big brother Lingtian, is this the war god you want to build? Xianyuan Yingying looked at the blueprint in Li Lingtian's hands and her face broke into an excited smile. She was curious about how powerful Li Lingtian's war god was in the past. She wondered how capable and intelligent Li Lingtian was to come up with such a heaven-defying warship. Now that she had seen Li Lingtian's blueprint with her own eyes, she was even more curious. This blueprint was basically a framework. As a girl, she naturally could not understand it. Only those array masters and artifact refining grandmasters could understand the true power of this blueprint. This blueprint could definitely create a battleship that could threaten martial saints. That's right. This is the blueprint of the war god. It's much more powerful than the previous war god. The insides have also been improved. It uses the inner cores of 6th, 7th, and 8th rank demon beasts. It's enough to destroy a martial saint. However, it's very difficult to find the inner core of a 7th or 8th grade demonic beast. Moreover, when using an 8th grade inner core, you need a top grade spirit stone. With a top grade spirit stone and an 8th grade inner core, there's a chance of killing a martial saint. The number of spirit stones needed to build this war god is much higher than before. The materials and spirit stones needed should be around 200 billion. Li Lingtian said earnestly. Spiritual stones were nothing to him. Because of the time in the bottomless abyss, he had obtained countless spiritual stones. His net worth had already reached more than 20 trillion, and each war god needed 200 billion. This way, he could build at least 100 war gods. 100 war gods, that power was simply heaven-defying. However, he didn't plan to build so many war gods. He planned to build 20 war gods first. The 20 war gods formed 2 battleships. This way, no matter where they were, they would be invincible. The modified war god was more than twice the size of the previous one. It was normal for it to carry 200,000 people. A war god carrying 200,000 powerhouses. Adding on the power of the war god, even if he encountered a heaven-defying martial saint, he would be able to wipe out the war god. He had also thought about it. The war god could only be used by the 4 armies. When he had more materials, he could build more and more powerful war gods. In that case, he could directly use a fleet of battleships in the war, and he would be invincible. So many spirit stones? Tang Zimeng was shocked. 200 billion was only enough to build 1 war god. This was too scary. However, he soon recalled that Li Lingtian had a net worth of over 2 trillion. It would not be difficult for him to build a few war gods. Spirit stones are a small matter. The main thing is the materials. Even if the 7 countries plundered all of them, they might not be able to gather so many materials. During this period of time, I'll take stock of the materials I've obtained from the army. I'll organize the materials and build 10 war gods. Li Lingtian smiled as he stroked Tang Zimeng's hair. The materials needed to create a single war god had taken a lot of time to gather back in Azure Continent. Now, to create 10 war gods, the materials needed were simply shocking. Furthermore, the materials for the war god were much more valuable and massive than before, so it was harder to find them. 10 War Gods. If you manage to forge them, try not to take them out. After all, we've been standing at the center of the storm for a while now. If an existence like the War God appears, many kingdoms will definitely make a move against us. Huang Fuyuyan reminded Li Lingtian that the divine martial army was already heaven-defying and had attracted the attention of countless countries and kingdoms. If the War God appeared again, Qing Xian would be the first to take the brunt of the attack. Although Qing Xian wanted to conquer the world, they couldn't afford to offend kingdoms and empires before they had a certain level of strength. There were 36 kingdoms in Moonsong Kingdom alone. Moreover, Qing Xian was only a low-grade kingdom. The high-grade kingdoms were incomparably powerful and were not something Qing Xian could contend against. Naturally. Li Lingtian nodded. He intended to equip the War God for the Divine Martial Army and the War God Legion. He wanted to use this legion as his trump card. Furthermore, his War God design had increased its speed by several times. Because the opponent was too strong, if the War God was too heavy, it would definitely be destroyed. Hence, speed was of utmost importance. Subsequently, Li Lingtian handed a jade slip to Longda for him to gather the materials. He himself had to deal with the matter of the Pill Dao Genius and Array Dao Genius. Furthermore, there were countless Spirit Pill Masters and Array Dao Grandmasters who had come for no reason. He didn't want these guys to look down on him. He had to use his true strength to conquer them and make them submit to the carefree empire. Meng Meng, prepare some hot water. I'll take a good bath. I haven't had a good rest recently. It's time to rest. Li Lingtian shouted at Tang Zimeng. Although he had been accompanying them all this time, he had not truly relaxed. Firstly, he was worried about the big battle, and secondly, he was worried about some things. He still had to worry about his cultivation, so it was difficult for him to relax. Now that the blueprint for the War God was ready and the training had been arranged, he could naturally relax. As long as the matter was arranged, he would do it according to the arrangement. This way, he did not have to worry. Yes. Tang Zimeng agreed happily. Then, she jogged in and entered the back of Yuran Hall. There was a big hot spring inside. It was a few hundred meters wide, and the water was crystal clear. It was warm in winter and cool in summer. It was an excellent environment. After Li Lingtian and the others had built the place, it had become a place for them to play and a place for them to love. Huang Fuyuyan and the others left with smiles on their faces when they heard Li Lingtian's words. Tang Qingyue, however, stayed behind. It was normal for the two sisters to accompany Li Lingtian. The other sisters were already used to it. Besides, it was normal to have 3 wives and 4 concubines in the divine martial continent. Moreover, the two sisters were peerless beauties. Soon, Tang Qingyue held Li Lingtian's arm and the two of them walked toward the back of Yuran Palace intimately. Tang Zimeng and Tang Qingyue removed Li Lingtian's clothes and then their own clothes by the pool. The 3 of them were soaking in the pool. The warm pond water was drowsy as the sisters massaged Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian lay in Tang Qingyue's arms and slowly fell asleep with his eyes closed. He had a satisfied smile on his face. Half an hour later, Li Lingtian woke up. Tang Qingyue and Tang Zimeng helped Li Lingtian clear his mind. The 3 of them made love in the pool before returning to their room. When the 3 of them returned to their room, the 2 sisters were already completely powerless. However, after Li Lingtian's massacre, they fell asleep in satisfaction. Things were different now. Although she yearned for such satisfaction, she was more satisfied with Li Lingtian by her side. The satisfaction of the soul was not a desire. While Li Lingtian and the rest were cultivating and resting in Yuran Palace, the army and powerhouses outside were secretly searching for materials. Some powerhouses specialized in hunting tier 6, 7 and 8 mystical beasts and sea beasts in search of supreme-grade spiritual stones. After 5 days in Yuran Palace, countless geniuses had gathered in southern Peak City, awaiting Li Lingtian's orders. 5 days had passed. Li Lingtian calculated the time and estimated that the geniuses from the 7 nations should be able to arrive by now. Even those who were late were allowed to participate in the assessment. There was no time limit for the recruitment of array Dao and alchemy Dao geniuses. To Li Lingtian, the more geniuses, the better. On this day, Li Lingtian instructed all the alchemists to refine a set of pills according to their grades. There were over 10,000 pill refiners in southern Peak City. Although most of them were pill refiners and pill grandmasters, there were also quite a few spirit pill refiners. Li Lingtian took a look at the name list. There were more than 6,000 alchemists, 3,000 level 3 alchemy grandmasters, 1,000 level 4 alchemy grandmasters, 300 level 5 spirit alchemists, and 100 level 6 spirit alchemists. Li Lingtian only took the test for alchemy grandmasters below tier 4. There was no need to take the test for spirit alchemists because these people could be used directly. Anyone who joined the Carefree Dynasty's Divine Elixir Dispensary would receive the Divine Elixir Dispensary's badge and Li Lingtian's guidance. With Li Lingtian's guidance, countless spirit alchemists were extremely excited. Despite being spirit alchemists, they were more obedient than babies in front of a super divine alchemist like Li Lingtian. This was because they understood that the power of a super alchemy saint was completely not something that could be measured with tier. Chapter 639, Gathering of Geniuses, Greetings, Alchemy Saint. 400 spirit alchemists arrived at the palace and bowed respectfully to Li Lingtian. In this place, Li Lingtian's young emperor was originally the ruler of the Carefree dynasty. However, they were alchemists and so was Li Lingtian. Calling him Alchemy Saint was more respectful and intimate. If he called him Young Master D, the distance would be widened. This title was something that the alchemists had studied for a long time. In front of Li Lingtian, they were like his disciples. Even a saint alchemist would not dare to be presumptuous in front of Li Lingtian, let alone the alchemists. After all, Li Lingtian's alchemy Dao was powerful and was not something an ordinary saint alchemist could compare to. Li Lingtian's achievements could only be looked up at, not looked at, much less overlooked. There's no need to be so polite. Sit down. Li Lingtian waved his hand with a faint smile on his face. Even though this place was the imperial palace, it was Li Lingtian's private property. Only those super powerhouses and generals were qualified to enter. It was an honor for these spirit alchemists to enter. All the alchemists sat on their chairs and looked at Li Lingtian with admiration as they waited for his instructions. Every alchemist's heart was thumping non-stop, as if they had seen their master. The entire palace was filled with 400 spirit alchemists. Li Lingtian sat on the throne at the front of the steps. Xiao Xiao and Qing Ping stood beside him. At this moment, he was just like an ordinary scion of an aristocratic family. However, no one dared to think so. If they really had such thoughts, they would be courting death. Welcome to the Divine Pill Pavilion. If you join the Divine Pill Pavilion, you have to abide by the rules of the Divine Pill Pavilion. The future of the Divine Pill Pavilion will depend on you. The war ahead is going to be an era of fighting for the world. I need a strong logistics group. You guys will be my logistics support. Materials, resources, you have an inexhaustible supply. Status and power, it's up to you to fight for it. I can give you some guidance according to your talent, allowing you to reach a higher level on the path of alchemy. Li Lingtian waited for all the spirit alchemists to take their seats before he sipped his tea and spoke calmly. He swept a sharp glance at all the spirit alchemists. Wherever his gaze passed, they all lowered their heads. The spirit alchemists who were high and mighty in the outside world were only a step away from becoming a saint alchemist. However, they showed no resistance in front of Li Lingtian. We will definitely work hard to not embarrass you and bring glory to the Divine Pill Pavilion. All the alchemists were excited. It was harder than ascending to the heavens to advance further in alchemy because they lacked talent and a guiding lamp to guide them on the bright path. Now that he had the medicinal herbs and resources, as well as a super alchemy saint, he might be able to take a step forward on the path of alchemy if he received guidance in the future. no matter who you have offended in the past, or your family and country. However, once you reach the Divine Pill Pavilion, you will become members of the Divine Pill Pavilion. You can't cause internal strife in the Divine Pill Pavilion. Otherwise, I won't be polite. Similarly, as long as you are in the Divine Pill Pavilion, no one will be able to touch you. Li Lingtian spoke once again to reassure the spirit alchemists. Although the status of an alchemist was extraordinary, it was inevitable that they would offend other warriors and powerhouses. With Li Lingtian's words, no one was afraid of their enemies. Similarly, to be able to say such words, it carried a kind of strength and ability. This meant that the Xiaoyao dynasty could defend against any expert and protect them. This disciple is willing to go through fire and water for you, alchemy saint. All the alchemists were extremely grateful. A true powerhouse would always protect his own people because he had the ability to do so. As long as he did not betray Li Lingtian in the future, he would be safe and would be able to get what he wanted. Alright, from now on, you guys will be refining pills in Qjianji Xian country. I will explain the principles and profoundness of alchemy to you guys regularly. Someone will find the required herbs and pill formulas for you. All you need to do is refine the pills and improve your techniques. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he waved his hand to signal the spirit alchemists to retreat. After the spirit alchemist was settled, the other pill masters and pill grandmasters would be dealt with slowly. He would let them refine low-level pills and receive his guidance. With tens of thousands of pill refiners refining pills for him, he could support the army. Similarly, this way, he could control alchemists and increase his influence in alchemy. We will take our leave. All the alchemists bowed and left, quickly leaving the palace. After leaving the palace, there were maids and people to greet them. Alchemists were respected, so he would naturally give them status. As long as they didn't betray him, they would do anything. This was because every alchemist had their own pride. There was no need for him to care about them at all. As long as they refined medicinal pills, it would be fine. Moreover, if he gave them the willingness and materials, they would definitely try their best to refine medicinal pills and improve their alchemy skills when they encountered such an opportunity. All the alchemists were given the badge of the Xiaoyao dynasty's divine elixir dispensary. This badge could only be created by the Xiaoyao dynasty. Moreover, the badge of the alchemist was also included in Li Lingtian's 5 elements Dao intent. This kind of 5 elements Dao intent was extremely beneficial to spirit alchemists. This was also one of the key reasons why alchemists valued this badge. It could help alchemists stabilize their aura and increase the stability of their pills. More importantly, the badge contained a trace of Li Lingtian's alchemy enlightenment. Anyone who possessed the badge would be able to sense some of Li Lingtian's alchemy skills. However, all of this depended on the alchemist's talent, relying on talent to comprehend. After dealing with the spirit alchemists, Li Lingtian dealt with the array masters again. Using the same words and method, he recruited all the advanced array masters to serve the carefree dynasty. However, those who stayed behind were all array grandmasters, spiritual array masters, and even 2 sacred array masters. Initially, the 2 holy array masters were not convinced by Li Lingtian. However, they were stunned by Li Lingtian's casual display of array Dao. Li Lingtian's array Dao cultivation had far surpassed that of a holy array master. In addition to the divine array diagram, it was not something a holy array master could compare to. Li Lingtian, a genius in the path of refining, used the same method. Although Li Lingtian did not refine weapons, he had a good understanding of array Dao and the path of refining. Moreover, a true grandmaster artifact craftsman must know array formation. That was because adding array formation to a weapon was the most powerful. In just 3 days, the array grandmaster, spirit alchemist, and artifact refining grandmaster, 3 heaven-defying professional geniuses, had gathered in Qingxian. Almost half of the alchemy masters and alchemy grandmasters were left behind because they had to go through a year's assessment. They could only advance 1 level of alchemy technique in a year before they could truly join the carefree dynasty. After settling everything down, Li Lingtian gathered some of the array Dao and alchemy Dao powerhouses to refine the pills and explain the array Dao. Countless powerhouses were impressed by Li Lingtian's alchemy and array Dao. Everything was ready. The medicinal pills were continuously refined, so he could use the medicinal herbs to his heart's content. While the array Dao genius and the equipment refining genius were studying Li Lingtian's war god blueprint, Li Lingtian was also constantly refining pills. Every few days, there would be a shocking amount of spiritual energy soaring into the sky from the palace of Qingxian. Countless experts would be excited because this was the spiritual alchemist of the Divine Pill Pavilion refining Tier 6 pills. Boom! A shocking spiritual energy soared into the sky. This was not the first time, but it would definitely not be the last time. This was because during this period of time, there was a shocking amount of spiritual energy, all of which was the spirit infusion of the spirit alchemists. However, this surge of spiritual energy was stronger than before. The spiritual energy pillar was 100 meters wide, and this spiritual energy was in the 9 heavens. The sky exploded with a halo of spiritual energy. In the depths of the sky, a halo of spiritual energy with a radius of 2 miles appeared. Endless spiritual energy condensed towards the halo and then rushed down along with the spiritual energy pillar. What a powerful spiritual energy impact! I wonder who is refining pills. There is actually such a spiritual energy impact. Could it be that some Taoist brother is trying to break through to the next realm? This shouldn't be the spiritual energy impact of a Tier 6 medicinal pill. Countless spirit alchemists and alchemy grandmasters, as well as countless alchemists, as well as experts in southern Peak City, were looking at the palace with curious eyes. However, after a long time, the halo disappeared, and so did the spiritual energy pillar. Boom! After a full hour, the second spiritual energy pillar appeared again. This spiritual energy pillar was even stronger than the first one. All the martial artists and alchemists could only be shocked once again, but then they did not take it to heart. After 6 consecutive attacks of spiritual energy, the halo of spiritual energy in the sky had already reached a radius of 1,000 miles. In such a situation, all the alchemy grandmasters and alchemy masters could no longer remain silent. All the super experts looked at the sky curiously. When the spiritual energy pillar and halo disappeared, they slowly retracted their gazes. At the same time, they were discussing non-stop. However, they all understood that another cauldron of Grade 6 medicinal pills had appeared. Grade 6 medicinal pills were used by martial emperor powerhouses. It was not easy for even a Grade 6 spirit alchemist to refine them. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded. The spiritual energy pillar was still 100 meters wide, but the halo in the sky spread to a radius of 10,000 miles. Everyone in southern Peak City could see the colorful halo in the sky. What a powerful halo of spiritual energy! Wait, that's not right. This is the pill you were refining at the beginning. That's a familiar aura. This aura is so familiar. It's a saint alchemist refining a Tier 7 pill. 7 times of spirit infusion. This is a 7th grade pill. Tier 7 medicinal pills can only be refined by Tier 7 alchemy saint masters. Could it be that His Excellency Alchemy Saint Master is refining the medicinal pill? It must be His Excellency Alchemy Saint refining a Tier 7 medicinal pill. All the experts, alchemy grandmasters, and spirit alchemists looked at the spiritual aura and spiritual pillar in the air. At this moment, when they looked at the spiritual pillar and the spiritual aura, they were completely filled with admiration. This was the first time they witnessed Li Lingtian refining a level 7 elixir. For a powerhouse and an alchemist, such an opportunity was something that only came by chance. Moreover, this was a legendary super alchemy saint refining a Tier 7 medicinal pill. Chapter 640, Shocking Alchemy Technique, 1, Rumble. Walala. Crackle. The sky was originally cloudless, but in an instant, the sky became covered with dark clouds. Thunder rolled and lightning flashed, as if the end of the world had arrived. The purple electric arcs continued to dive down, heading straight for the palace. All the experts were extremely shocked by this situation because this was a kind of heavenly omen. Otherwise, the sky would not have changed so suddenly and become so terrifying. The destructive lightning whirled and its shocking aura made all the experts and alchemists feel afraid. Pill tribulation, pill tribulation. This is a pill tribulation, a real pill tribulation. 11. It's the pill tribulation that was triggered when a saint alchemist refined a tier 7 pill. It can't be that another peerless grade mutated tier 7 medicinal pill has appeared, right? So it's the pill tribulation that was triggered when you were refining pills. A saint alchemist is indeed a saint alchemist. He's a unique super saint alchemist. Only a super saint alchemist like young Master D can refine peerless pills. So this is the pill tribulation. It's so powerful and magical. Immediately, countless experts and alchemists saw the reason for the change in the sky. After knowing this reason, all the experts and alchemists were incomparably shocked. Similarly, everyone was extremely curious and looked at the scene in the sky with admiration. At that moment, the news of Li Lingtian's tier 7 pill refinement leading to a pill tribulation spread like wildfire and everyone was aware of it. Knowing that Li Lingtian was the one who triggered the pill tribulation while refining the pills, they were extremely relaxed. They looked at the scene in the sky as if they were admiring the scenery. That terrifying world became magical and exciting. This was because the young emperor of the carefree dynasty, Li Lingtian, was refining a tier 7 pill and had triggered a pill tribulation. Only Li Lingtian could achieve such an achievement. The entire city cheered for Li Lingtian's pill tribulation. Rumble. Walala. Crackle. Boom. Boom. The thunder in the sky continued to rumble, and the purple electric arcs continued to bombard the imperial palace. At that moment, a dazzling multicolored ball of light appeared in the imperial palace. Li Lingtian's figure shot up and hovered in the air. He waved his hands continuously. In front of him was a huge ball of light, a colorful ball of light. The ball of light was not big, but it was extremely dazzling. The entire southern peak city could see it clearly. In the ball of light, there was a pill cauldron that was spinning non-stop. Traces of colorful light appeared in the cauldron. The colorful light was extremely magical. All the alchemists looked up at the sky with admiration in their eyes. Seconds ticked by, but Li Lingtian's hands never stopped moving. On the contrary, they were getting faster and faster. After half an hour, Li Lingtian extended a hand in the air and flicked his finger. A strange incantation gesture was shot toward the crucible. The pill cauldron also stopped in front of the spell's seal. Li Lingtian's movements came to a halt at that moment. His eyes sparkled as a smile of confidence and satisfaction appeared on his face. In the sky, the thunder and lightning disappeared. The dark clouds also disappeared, and they returned to the clear space without clouds. Moreover, at this time, the sky became even wider. Grade 7 mutated great rejuvenating pill, the best quality. I'll reward you with it. Li Lingtian waved his hand in an extremely graceful manner. Instantly, dozens of light shadows flew out from the cauldron into the sky. The pills formed a 5-colored radiance that flew towards every corner of southern Peak City. At that moment, Li Lingtian looked down at the imperial palace. The 20 or so alchemists in the palace had also received some tier 7 pills. In an instant, more than 20 supreme martial emperors, 20 martial saints, and 20 spirit alchemists in southern Peak City received the pills refined by Li Lingtian. The experts and alchemists who had obtained the pill all looked excited. This was a peerless mutated great recovery pill, and it was the only one in the divine martial continent. Only the holy alchemist Li Lingtian could refine it. The power of this pill was beyond the existence of a level 7. Young Master D, Young Master D. Young Master D, Young Master D. Countless warriors were excited and worshipped when they saw Li Lingtian taking out the peerless grade mutated great rejuvenating pill that he had refined in such a carefree manner. It was beyond the scope of any Danon or alchemist. In this world, Li Lingtian was the only person who could give away a peerless grade 7 mutated great cyclic pellet. Only a powerhouse like Li Lingtian and a super divine alchemist like Ling Tian would be so generous. All the warriors and powerhouses could not help but cheer as their subjects worshipped Li Lingtian. At this moment, Li Lingtian was a godlike existence in their hearts. Carefully meditate and comprehend the wonders of the Tao of alchemy. In this world, everything has its own Tao. It's the same for pill Tao, array Tao, and martial Tao. 10,000 yuan will never leave its origin, and 10,000 yuan will return to one. Li Lingtian vanished into the air after he finished speaking. His voice lingered in the air for a long time. All the warriors and alchemists were enlightened at that moment. Li Lingtian's words had exposed all the truth and profundities. The true geniuses and experts might be able to find the profound meaning in his words. He could find the breakthrough point with just a few words. As for whether he could accept his profound, that would depend on his talent and comprehension. Thank you for your guidance, Pill Saint. All the powerhouses and alchemists bowed respectfully at the spot where Li Lingtian had disappeared. After Li Lingtian returned to the imperial palace's Yuran Hall, he sat cross-legged in meditation. Although his expression was calm, he was extremely excited. This was because the power of this pill tribulation lightning essence was powerful. It was even stronger than he had imagined. Directly attracting the pill tribulation after refining pills. Such a benefit would have endless benefits for future pill refinement. As long as one refined a grade 6 pill or above, they could directly use this pill tribulation lightning essence to refine a mutated pill. Although this pill tribulation lightning essence had a little postnatal feeling, the pill tribulation that it attracted was real, as if this pill tribulation lightning essence was a primer. The purpose of refining the pill this time was firstly to verify the pill tribulation thunder essence, and secondly, to show the experts and alchemists of Southern Peak City how a Tier 7 mutated peerless pill was easily refined. As long as he had such a heaven-defying ability, he would be able to conquer all the experts and gather the hearts of all the experts in the world. After resting for an hour, the true essence in his body had completely recovered. Moreover, his cultivation had improved even more. Although his true essence had not increased, he could feel that it had become purer. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the fourth heaven. It was already impossible to increase his true essence. If he wanted to increase his true essence, he had to break through to the fifth heaven. What he wanted to do the most now was to completely break through to the fourth firmament. That way, he would be able to quickly increase his cultivation when he refined medicinal pills. After he finished cultivating, his spirit and Jin Yuan recovered. He left his room and went to the garden outside Yuran Palace. He watched as all the girls played inside. From time to time, he could hear the laughter of Tang Zimeng, Shenyuan Qingqing, and the others. Qingqing's laughter was his joy. No matter when or what happened, as long as he saw Qingqing and Qingqing's laughter, the frustration in his heart would completely disappear. Shenyuan Qingqing and the others spotted Li Lingtian when they arrived at the garden. Imperial Uncle, Imperial Uncle. Qingqing's delicate voice rang out as a smaller figure ran toward Li Lingtian. Qingqing was now a Tier 6 warrior, even though the warrior realm was something they could ignore. However, Qingqing was their precious daughter. She was like their biological daughter. Seeing their precious daughter grow up quickly, they were naturally very happy. To be able to advance from an ordinary person to a Tier 6 warrior in such a short period of time was already heaven-defying. Moreover, Qingqing was only 6 years old. It would already be impressive if other 6-year-olds could reach Tier 5 or 6 warrior apprentices when they started cultivating. Moreover, Li Lingtian did not give Qingqing any pills. He had already thought it through. Even though the pills were heaven-defying, it was best not to use them too often. At the very least, Qingqing could not use pills before she became a warrior. She could only use pills to break through when she reached Tier 9 warrior. This was also a better way to stabilize the foundation. A martial artist's foundation was very important. In this world, all martial artists did not have a stable foundation. Basically, they had taken pills. Qingqing did not use pills. She relied solely on her talent and aptitude, as well as heaven-defying cultivation techniques to increase her cultivation. Qingqing, did you miss Imperial Uncle? Li Lingtian reached out and wrapped his arms around the petite figure. He then kissed her on her pink cheeks with a kind smile on his face. Of course I miss Imperial Uncle. These few days, although I have my aunt and the others toplay with me, I still miss Imperial Uncle. Imperial Uncle's alchemy is very important, and there are many things to deal with. Qing naturally won't disturb Imperial Uncle, right? Xianyuan Qingqing happily reached out her little hands and wrapped them around Li Lingtian's neck. She also kissed Li Lingtian on the cheek as she spoke in a sweet voice. Li Lingtian smiled in satisfaction as he listened to Xianyuan Qingqing's words. It would be strange if he did not feel happy about such a sensible and adorable little girl. While looking at Xianyuan Qingqing, he walked towards the garden where Tang Qingyue and the others were waiting. Although refining pills is important, it's not as important as my treasure. Li Lingtian said gently as he pinched Xianyuan Qingqing's cheek affectionately. Then, he came to the pavilion in the garden and sat beside Tang Qingyue, but he kept hugging Xianyuan Qingqing. All of a sudden, all the girls came to the pavilion and surrounded Li Lingtian, chattering non-stop. Although they hadn't seen each other for a while, they missed each other very much. Li Lingtian smiled as he looked at the group of pretty girls. He listened to their conversation and answered them occasionally. The entire scene was harmonious and warm, making people envious. P.S. I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage King Myriad. I welcome everyone to read it and add it to your collection. I need everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 641, Cultivation, 1. This time, countless experts have seen with their own eyes that young master has refined a peerless grade mutated great recovery pill. They will definitely be even more loyal. Qing Ling stood behind Li Lingtian and massaged his shoulders with both hands. Her soft fingers gently pinched his shoulder armor to relax him. With a look of enjoyment on his face, the corners of his mouth revealed a relaxed expression. Ling Tian's position in the Seven Kingdoms has already been consolidated quite a bit. He's mainly dealing with the other countries and kingdoms. When they see Lingtian's strength, they want to suppress us even more. After all, no matter how powerful we are, we can't compare to those high-grade countries, let alone the royal kingdoms. When those kingdoms see that we have become a potential threat to them, they will think of ways to nip this potential threat in the bud. Therefore, Ling Tian has to quickly raise his cultivation. Tang Qingyue said seriously. Outside, she was an icy beauty. She didn't say a word and gave people the impression that she was 1,000 miles away. She was unapproachable, but in front of Li Lingtian, she was just a gentle little woman, Li Lingtian's wife. Sister Qingyue is right. You must improve your cultivation, because no matter when, a true expert can decide the outcome of a battle. If our army is strong enough, a super martial saint will be able to wipe out our army and kill our experts. We will be in danger too. You are the soul of the army, and we rely on you. Therefore, your cultivation base is the most important. Our goal is to strengthen ourselves and have a powerful faction to stabilize ourselves. Huang Fuyuyan nodded in agreement. However, she mainly talked about Li Lingtian's cultivation base later on. In this world, Li Lingtian was already a heaven-defying existence. He was only 23 or 24 years old, yet he had already attained the 4th Heaven Martial Emperor realm. His strength was comparable to a martial saint powerhouse. However, a heaven-defying person must have a heaven-defying threat and a heaven-defying journey. Li Lingtian was heaven-defying, but his opponents and challenges were equally heaven-defying. Therefore, Li Lingtian had to maintain the fastest cultivation speed and raise his cultivation base to deal with all kinds of powerful challenges. If he could not raise his cultivation base, what awaited him was destruction. You are all right. During this period of time, I have been refining pills and cultivating. I have also felt a trace of opportunity. My realm has also loosened, but I am missing something. I've also made up my mind. In the future, you guys should watch out for the matters outside. I'll be in seclusion for a period of time. I hope to find an opportunity to break through to the fourth heaven. I've been in the fourth heaven for a long time. It's time for me to break through. Otherwise, I feel like I've regressed. Li Lingtian's lips curled into a faint smile. He had already made up his mind. The 7 nations had already stabilized. As long as the 7 nations did not attack the other nations would not provoke Qing Xian easily. Even if they wanted to attack and wipe out Qing Xian, the first person they would look for would be him. Only by wiping him out would the morale of the Qing Xian army collapse. At that time, there would be no need to attack and they would be able to disintegrate Qjianji Xian. Moreover, the main forces of Qing Xian were the Divine Wind Legion, Divine Dragon Legion, and Divine Martial Legion of the Xiaoyao dynasty. These 3 legions were the foundation of the carefree empire. It would not be so easy to wipe them out. While the Qing Xian kingdom was stable and the armies of the other countries were still hesitating, he could use some time to raise his cultivation. Moreover, he had already thought it through in his heart. He had to create a heaven-defying army and experts that could replace his army. Because he didn't want to do it all the time. If he did it himself, he would not have the time to cultivate. In that case, there would be no meaning in establishing the Xiaoyao dynasty. But it's not that easy to break through. It's better to let nature take its course. Shun Mei chimed in when she heard Li Lingtian and the others' conversation. She had spent a lot of time in dual cultivation with Li Lingtian, so she had a better understanding of his cultivation base. It was not so easy to break through from the 4th heaven to the 5th heaven. Moreover, the 4th heaven to the 5th heaven was an insurmountable natural moat. As long as he crossed it, it would be a smooth road. During this period of time, we can use dual cultivation and enter closed-door cultivation to help Big Brother Ling Tian break through to the 4th heaven. Maybe this will work. Tang Zimeng's face blushed slightly after she finished speaking. Although she had been married to Li Lingtian for a long time and had served him with her sister, it was still embarrassing to say it out loud. However, she didn't have any other intentions in her heart. This was because they could obtain heaven-defying benefits when they practiced dual cultivation. Otherwise, their cultivation would have already reached the 9th level of the Martial Emperor realm, only 1 step away from the Martial Honor realm. Dual cultivation won't do. Dual cultivation can only increase one's cultivation, not break through. Oh, right. Husband, why don't you try the 9 heavens of ice/fire? Your ice/fire 9th heaven has been stuck at the 3rd heaven for a long time. You've also found the infinite holy flame and the spiritual ice. If you can break through the 4th heaven of ice/fire 9th heaven, you might be able to take advantage of this opportunity to become a 5th heaven martial emperor. At that time, you're level 4 ice/fire level 9, and level 5 martial emperor, your strength was unimaginable. Shun Mei pondered for a moment before she finally spoke. After that, she looked at Li Lingtian with her beautiful eyes, waiting for his reaction. The other girls were also looking at Li Lingtian because it was a good idea to try this method. It was a good method to kill several birds with one stone. However, whether it would succeed or not was not something they could control. The matter of breaking through was not something that any expert could control. Mei is right. It's just as I thought. I'm also preparing to try the ice/fire 9 heavens during this period of time. It's just that I've been very busy recently and have no time to implement it. Now that the Qing Xian kingdom has settled down, I can give it a try. If I can raise the ice/fire 9 heavens, then we can unify all the low-grade kingdoms in the Moonsong kingdom. Just you wait. I'll go into seclusion to cultivate now. When I come out of seclusion, it'll be time for the army to go out. Li Lingtian burst into laughter. His wives were all extremely intelligent. If he thought of something, someone else would be able to think of it. In other words, someone would help him think of something that he could not think of. This way, he would not be fighting alone but with a few intelligent wives fighting together. With that, he kissed Qing Qing's cheek and handed her to Huang Fuyuyan. Then, he left the garden and walked into the depths of Yuran Palace. The places where he cultivated were all reinforced with restrictions and arrays. Very few people could disturb him because at his level, he was most worried about being interrupted when he cultivated. Li Lingtian returned to the practice room and began to meditate. He was still cultivating the heaven and earth reincarnation art. He did not care about the other cultivation techniques because he needed to cultivate his own cultivation techniques to improve his cultivation base if he wanted to achieve a breakthrough. This time, half a month had passed, and there was no movement at all. Finally, on this day, Li Lingtian's expression was as calm as an ancient well. Shoo! He let out a sigh, and his eyes flashed with a bright light. During this half a month, he tried to break through, but there was no way. However, he could already sense that what he thought earlier might be right. He should break through to the 9th firmament of ice/fire and take advantage of the breakthrough of the 9th firmament of ice/fire to let the 4th firmament martial monarch realm break through as well. With a calm mind, he activated his divine consciousness and opened the divine dragon ring. 2 boxes appeared inside. 2 boxes appeared in front of Li Lingtian. He closed the divine dragon ring and each of his hands held a box. Limitless holy flame. Spirit cold ice. As he muttered to himself, his eyes flashed with a sharp light, and a hint of determination appeared on the corner of his mouth. He circulated all his vital essence and used the true dragon body barrier and the limitless feather coat. At the same time, he used all kinds of defensive methods because the limitless holy flame and the spirit cold ice were powerful enough to destroy a martial saint. He was only a martial monarch realm expert. If he was not careful, he would disappear into thin air the moment 2 ultimate destruction items appeared, let alone refining them. Flaming sacred body, ice soul martial soul. After doing all that, he shouted softly and unleashed his ice soul martial spirit and flaming sacred body. Instantly, 2 extreme worlds formed in the entire training room. This world was a world of ice and fire, a world that destroyed everything. In this world, even if a martial emperor powerhouse entered, he would instantly vanish into thin air. Li Lingtian's body floated up. His eyes were calm, but 2 worlds appeared before his eyes. One was the ice world and the other was the flame world. His gaze was like he wanted to destroy everything. Quick! Waving his hands, he circulated a series of hand seals and cultivation techniques. In the end, he pointed a hand seal at the 2 boxes floating in the air. Immediately, the box exploded, and a destructive power of burning the sky erupted. At the same time, a cold air that could freeze the world appeared. When the 2 extreme attributes met, the air in the training room instantly shattered, as if the world was about to be destroyed. The expression on Li Lingtian's face changed drastically as a trickle of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He had long known how terrifying the infinite holy flame and the spiritual ice were and had already made many preparations. However, he had never expected the 2 items to be so abnormal. It was completely beyond his imagination. He had been injured when the spiritual cold ice and limitless holy flame appeared. He had never encountered such a terrifying thing before. He had the ice spirit martial soul and the flaming sacred body, but he was injured by an ownerless item. The shock in his heart was extremely strong, but the more it was like this, the more excited he was. The stronger the spiritual ice and limitless holy flame were, the stronger his achievements would be. When the time came, the power would be even stronger. Chapter 642, the 4th level, swoosh, swoosh. Rip, rip. In the training room, a mysterious and terrifying sound rang out, as if space was being torn apart. The spiritual ice and the infinite holy flame occupied half of the space and both wanted to occupy the entire space. For a moment, the 2 extreme existences fought. Li Lingtian became the center of destruction as blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. His face was ghastly pale. The raging flames carried a kind of extreme, almost indistinct, enough to burn everything in the world. An invisible cold air was emitted from the spirit ice. The invisible cold air seemed to be able to freeze the world. Pfft! He spat out another mouthful of blood, and his eyes revealed a trace of weakness. Ice, fire, 9 heavens, refine it for me. Li Lingtian's heart sank. He knew that this could not go on. If he waited, he would definitely be destroyed by these two terrifying auras. His divine sense moved, and the ice/fire/9 heavens started to circulate. Suddenly, the practice room began to fluctuate strangely. A mysterious ice and fire appeared around Li Lingtian. The ice and fire blended together, unlike the battle between the spirit-chilling ice and the limitless holy flame. With the appearance of the ice-fire combination, the pressure on Li Lingtian was reduced. The frosty chi emitted by the spirit-chilling ice and the sky-burning power emitted by the limitless holy flame were all combined by the ice-fire combination. Although the speed was slow, it was not enough to threaten Li Lingtian's life. Li Lingtian felt a little more at ease when he saw this. At least he would not be incinerated by the limitless holy flame or frozen by the spirit frost. Chi-chi. Chi-chi. With a series of subtle sounds, the ice and fire fused the spirit-chilling ice and the infinite holy flame. Li Lingtian closed his eyes slightly and smiled. Seconds passed by. In the practice room, Li Lingtian was as still as a statue. The two ultimate auras in the air did not weaken. On the contrary, they became even more terrifying. However, these two terrifying auras no longer posed any threat to Li Lingtian. Spirit cold ice. Li Lingtian's eyes snapped open with a sharp glint as he spoke indifferently with a smirk. He grabbed at the air with one hand, and the spirit freezing ice appeared in front of him, spinning continuously in front of him. The destructive cold air instantly froze the space. Limitless holy flame. He had already refined the spirit freezing ice, so it didn't affect him at all. Moreover, the spirit freezing ice was still for his use, so he naturally didn't have to worry. However, just as the spirit freezing ice was about to seal the space, Li Lingtian extended his left hand and grabbed at the infinite holy flame in front of him. The terrifying infinite holy flame arrived before him and its power to burn the sky shook the space that was about to seal it. One was dark blue while the other was dark purple. The two light orbs were spinning continuously. Although there was some repulsion between them, Li Lingtian had become their bridge so they did not attack each other. It was like two enemies seeking refuge with the same master. Although there was hatred, it was not good to fight for the sake of the master. Ice, fire, 9 heavens, 4th heaven, breakthrough. The smile remained on his face as he used his divine sense to grab the two balls of light and slowly merge them together. Li Lingtian could clearly sense the two light orbs repelling each other as if they were about to destroy each other. He did not want to see such a situation and outcome. Ice, fire, 9 heavens circulated. Ice and fire combined and circulated. The heaven and earth reincarnation art was activated at this moment. This was because the heaven and earth reincarnation art was an existence that fused all things in the world and any attribute. Even ice and fire could be fused. Chi 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 chi. The sizzling sounds became more intense and obvious. Li Lingtian's expression was extremely grave. The infinite holy flame was the most mysterious flame in the world while the spirit frost ice was the strange ice in the world. Either of the two items was a rare treasure of heaven and earth, an existence that could only be encountered by luck. The two attributes were originally against each other, but now that they had met, it was naturally very difficult to fuse them. They had innate consciousness and were natural enemies. One could imagine the difficulty of changing them. Second by second, the two balls of light gradually approached each other in Li Lingtian's hands. They were less than a meter apart, but this distance felt like billions of miles. As time passed, the two balls of light were already very close to each other. Li Lingtian's expression was one of extreme pain. It was heaven-defying to combine the two extremes. However, at this moment, giving up was no longer possible. Not only would he fail if he gave up, but he might also be destroyed. In front of them were tigers and wolves, and behind them was a cliff. He could only advance, or else he would be invincible. Boom! Ah! With a deafening explosion, the two light orbs had already gathered together. Li Lingtian roared. It was as if shouting could reduce the pressure and pain in his body. At the same time, the practice room was destroyed and Li Lingtian's body was suspended in the air. Heaven and earth shook as two extreme auras wreaked havoc in the space. Countless people in the imperial palace saw it and countless experts were attracted by the two destructive auras. Looking at Li Lingtian in the air, he could see that Li Lingtian was floating in the air. Furthermore, he was surrounded by an endless world of flames and ice. Within a radius of 10 miles, there were two extreme worlds with Li Lingtian in the middle. He waved his hands continuously and fused with the purple-blue ball of light in front of him. The limitless holy flame and the spirit frost ice had already fused together, but they were still repelling each other. Li Lingtian could only use his astonishing ice-fire fusion and heaven and earth reincarnation art to fuse them together so that they would not be separated. What a terrifying world of ice! What a terrifying world of flames! Young Master D actually fused two extreme attributes. This is too terrifying. Is it possible? How heaven-defying! Can ice and fire be compatible? Heaven-defying, this is heaven-defying. Regardless of success or failure, young Master D is definitely the most courageous expert in the divine martial continent. What kind of destructive power will be produced when the terrifying icy world and the terrifying flaming world fuse? Countless super experts looked at the situation in the sky and were incomparably shocked. Their expressions were all stunned. They had never thought that there would be someone in this world who could fuse two attributes. Moreover, these two attributes were publicly recognized as hostile attributes in the world, so it was impossible to fuse them. No one dared to imagine that at this moment, the legendary, powerful, and heaven-defying young Master D was fusing two extreme attributes. Explode 30. Please get 2 monthly votes. Please get recommendation votes and book reviews. Continue to explode tomorrow. Chapter 643, 5th Level Martial Emperor Realm. The pillar of light shook the sky and shot towards the 9 heavens like a beam of time. The world instantly shattered, and the earth trembled. All the experts trembled, and their eyes were filled with fear. Boom! An explosion sounded in the distant void. Suddenly, a huge black hole appeared in the void. The space also shattered inch by inch, as if a mirror had been broken. Pfft! All the experts spat out a mouthful of blood. Because of the shattering of space, countless experts were not prepared at all. If they were not prepared, they would be heavily injured. Just the vibration of the space was enough to injure everyone. If this pillar of light gathered on their bodies, they did not know if their souls would still exist or if there would be a trace of dust left. The sky was unable to calm down for a long time. The world was destroyed, and the world trembled and was destroyed. Li Lingtian hovered in the air like a god of war. He stared into the void and was shocked. This move was indeed peerless and was many times more terrifying than extinction. Give the order to unify all the lower-class countries. Li Lingtian said indifferently as he made a killing gesture with one hand. His expression was icy cold. He could sense that his realm had loosened up. It was time for him to break through. He had already cultivated the 4th heaven of the 9 heavens of ice and fire. He had already reached the limit of the 4th heaven of the martial emperor realm and was about to break through. It was time for him to unify all the inferior countries. After saying that, all the experts and subjects were stunned and immediately woke up. By conquering and unifying all the lower-class nations, Li Lingtian's cultivation base and strength had increased tremendously. Congratulations, young Master D, for cultivating the almighty divine ability. Congratulations, young Master D, for cultivating the almighty divine ability. All the powerhouses cheered as Li Lingtian returned to the surface. Although the practice room had disappeared, no one dared to disturb his cultivation. He sat cross-legged and circulated all his cultivation techniques. The heaven and earth reincarnation art guided the circulation of his true essence. He threw a mutated Great Recovery pill into his mouth. This was the first time he refined a mutated Peerless Grade Great Recovery pill. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, a shocking medicinal strength erupted. There was also a mysterious power that continuously cleansed his body. The true essence in his body soared, and his body underwent a mysterious sublimation. The heaven and earth reincarnation art balanced the 5 elements of Tao intent. The medicinal power of the great cyclic pill turned into true essence and quickly fused with the true essence in his dantian. Violent and powerful true essence rushed straight towards the bottleneck. Li Lingtian closed his eyes slightly to feel the changes in his body and the changes in the world. After reaching the martial emperor realm, breaking through was not just about strength. It was a kind of will, a kind of heaven and earth. The martial emperor realm had already fused with the heaven and earth. Only by comprehending the heaven and earth could one truly become a martial emperor powerhouse and truly break through. With the will of the 5 elements, it was naturally very easy for him to sense the 5 elements of heaven and earth. He was a small world to begin with, so it was naturally not that difficult. Martial Emperor, Level 5, Breakthrough. Li Lingtian opened his eyes with a smile on his face. He had broken through to the 5th Heaven Martial Emperor realm and became a 5th Heaven Martial Emperor powerhouse. His current cultivation was many times stronger than before. In other words, his current cultivation was completely different from when he was at the 4th Heaven. It was like the difference between a Supreme Realm expert and a Martial Emperor. Feeling the surging true essence in his body, feeling the strength and trajectory of the 5-colored golden core, he was extremely satisfied. After waiting for so long, he had finally broken through to level 5. This was a kind of joy. Although the breakthrough this time was not as difficult as the other experts, when he broke through, he comprehended the 9 heavens stars more often and reached another realm of understanding. Now that he was using the 9 heaven stars, its power was shocking. It was easy and fast, and could be used almost instantly. With the breakthrough in his cultivation, his strength had improved in all aspects. Not only did the true essence in his body become stronger, but it had also become even more magical. In his dantian, a few magical powers were constantly revolving. He had adapted to the changes in his true essence after breaking through. The divine spark in his upper dantian had also fused even more. His aura had been elevated, and his every move carried the demeanor of a super expert, making countless experts tremble in fear. The confident smile on his face remained as he left the cultivation ground step by step and arrived at the Yuan Palace. Tang Qingyue and the others were already waiting. They sized Li Lingtian up when they saw him come out. Although he had broken through to the 9th heaven of ice/fire, they did not know if Li Lingtian's cultivation base had broken through. Li Lingtian's realm was of utmost importance, so they were all concerned about it. Lingtian, you've broken through. Tang Qingyue sounded uncertain as she probed Li Lingtian softly. As Li Lingtian's aura had been elevated, they did not know if it was due to his ice/fire 9th heaven or his breakthrough. Yes, I've broken through. I've reached the 5th level of the Martial Emperor realm. Li Lingtian graciously replied with a gentle expression. He naturally understood that his wife cared about him. Li Lingtian was touched by their concern. With these wives, what else could he not be satisfied with? What else could he not be happy with? Really? Congratulations, young master. Congratulations, big brother Lingtian. Congratulations, big brother. Congratulations, Lingtian. Uncle, Qingqing congratulates you. Instantly, all the girls were extremely excited. They chirped happily like little birds to congratulate Li Lingtian, as if Li Lingtian's breakthrough was even happier than their own. Xianyuan Qingqing congratulated Li Lingtian as well when she saw the other aunts congratulating her imperial uncle. She was a martial artist now and naturally understood the importance of breaking through. Breakthrough. It was called a breakthrough because it was to break through oneself, surpass oneself, reach another level, and break through the limitations of one's current self. Li Lingtian's current breakthrough had not only surpassed powerhouses, but it had also surpassed his state of mind and everything else. I've cultivated the 5 elements Tao intent to perfection, so it's relatively easy for me to break through. This time, I've improved a lot of the stars in the 9 heavens and gained a lot of insight. It was rare for Li Lingtian to be happy. He would not hide anything in front of his wife and friends. He would never hide his happiness. Therefore, in front of Tang Qingyue and the others, he had always said whatever he wanted. This also made it seem closer and more real, because an expert would make others look up to him. You're now at the 5th heaven of the martial emperor realm, the 4th heaven of the ice, fire, 9th heaven, and the 9 heavens of stars. Even if you encounter a 5th heaven of the martial saint realm, you'll still be able to fight. However, I still need to strengthen the ice, fire, 9 heavens. After all, the outcome of a battle between martial saints can be decided in a second. Ice, fire, 9 heavens. The opponent won't give you the chance to use such a big move. Huangfu Yuyan reminded Li Lingtian of all the consequences and concerns no matter what. She was Li Lingtian's woman. Among the sisters, she was the most knowledgeable and experienced. She had encountered more problems than the other sisters and was more experienced than Li Lingtian. Therefore, she would remind Li Lingtian from time to time. Although there were times when they were apprehensive, Li Lingtian and the other girls accepted it. They valued and respected Huangfu Yuyan because they were a family and Huangfu Yuyan only spoke out for the good of everyone. And Yuyan is right. Powerful skills are all destructive. After reaching the rank of Martial Supreme, experts usually rely on experience and fast attacks. The reason why I can fight against those at a higher rank is because of my attack speed. I can execute 5 to 6 moves in the time it takes others to execute one move. Those destructive ultimate moves are all used at the most critical moment. They can only be used when they find the best opportunity. Not only does a big move consume spiritual energy, but it also consumes divine sense. There is also a huge risk because when you use a big move, the opponent has already attacked countless times. Unless you have someone to help you block or have an invincible defense. Li Lingtian nodded in agreement with Huangfu Yuyan's words. These were the most basic insights. His ability to comprehend skills was heaven-defying. With the eye of the divine soul, he could also quickly cultivate skills when he cultivated them. If one trained their skills to the extreme and reached the state of instant casting, they would have the advantage of jumping when fighting the enemy. Longda has already sent out the order to go out. I believe the army will be dispatched soon. Should we go out? Shun Mei looked at Li Lingtian. After Li Lingtian cultivated the 4th heaven of ice, fire, and 9 heavens, she gave the order. Longda also passed the order to Shenyuan Bailing. An army of 7 million could be mobilized with a single order and sweep across the world. In the past, they would not have been worried because the other kingdoms did not care much about them. However, the commotion in Qing Xian and Li Lingtian's heaven-defying performance had caught the attention of the other kingdoms. They would definitely get rid of him. If they sent out their armies to attack the other nations, the middle-tier nations and the upper-tier nations, they would definitely target Li Lingtian's army. Who knows, the armies and experts of the kingdoms might also want to attack the Qing Xian kingdom. In that case, the Qing Xian kingdom and the Xiaoyao Empire would be in trouble. No, the lower-grade countries are nothing to the middle-grade and upper-grade countries. Even if they want to deal with me, they won't do it now because they're afraid of losing face. We can take advantage of this period of time to develop. Besides, if they want to attack, they will definitely send super experts and an army. Our people will definitely know about this. As long as they move, we will act. The only way is for them to act in secret. It is impossible for an army to act in secret. They can only send super experts to deal with me. Am I that easy to deal with? Li Lingtian said confidently. His entire body exuded a domineering aura, exuding an aura that looked down on the world. He had a thorough analysis of the situation outside. Everything was under his control. When he schemed against the world, he schemed against the face of the strong. For the sake of face, he would not easily make a move. This was the so-called saying that a giant dragon would not be an enemy of an ant. The powerhouses of the divine martial continent were all like this. However, it was only an accident that they encountered people who did not care about their reputation. Chapter 644, Forging the War God. The 7 kingdoms were unified by the Qing Xian kingdom. Although they looked powerful now, it was not the same for the middle and upper tier kingdoms. The kingdoms were already like this, let alone the kingdoms. Li Lingtian's considerations were based on the mindset of the divine martial continent's powerhouse. Powerful powerhouses had their own attitudes. 11 The Moonsong Kingdom has 12 inferior kingdoms, 12 second-class kingdoms, and 12 upper-class kingdoms. Qing Xian is only a low-grade country. The few countries that have been unified are also low-grade countries. There are still 5 low-grade countries left. If nothing unexpected happens, in a short period of time, we should be able to unify the 5 low-grade countries. After combining the strength of the low-grade countries, it should be enough to compete with the middle-grade and even high-grade countries. Huang Fuyuyan did not have any objections to Li Lingtian's opinion. After a moment of silence, she analyzed the current situation and forces in Moonsong Kingdom. Although they were all countries, the difference between them was huge. The inferior kingdoms like Qing Xian were already powerful, let alone the middle and upper kingdoms. What she meant was that after these countries were unified, they would reorganize and consolidate the territory they obtained. This way, they would have the power to compete with the middle-sized countries. If he wanted to strengthen himself by snowballing the war and starting from scratch, he would have to double his growth. Otherwise, he would not be able to go far. We don't have to worry about dealing with the lower-tier countries. The main thing is that our current strength is not enough, so we can't suffer too many losses in the war. We should try our best to gather the hearts of the people. It's best if the countries submit. If it's a battle method of mutual destruction, that's the worst strategy in the art of war. Only by subduing the enemy without fighting is the best strategy. Wherever our army passes, we must have an unstoppable momentum. We must make our opponents lose their morale and courage to resist. This way, our gains will be even greater. We will gather super experts and form a super army. Only then will we have the capital to truly conquer the world. Li Lingtian smiled. He was beginning to enjoy the feeling of being in control of the overall situation and being able to strategize and guide the country. This feeling was very good. However, while he enjoyed it, he had to understand his position and situation. Only by truly becoming stronger could he control the world. The purpose of controlling the world was to strengthen himself and give himself a foothold. Oh right, Brother Ling Tian, with your 5th level martial emperor and your cultivation base, what's the chance of you killing a 5th level martial saint when you encounter a powerhouse? Xianyuan Yingying didn't know much about war, nor was she in the mood to care about it. She was only concerned about Li Lingtian's cultivation base. As long as Li Lingtian was strong enough, she could have whatever she wanted and no one would be able to threaten her. Between warriors, although the difference in realms is important, there are some warriors whose abilities are abnormal and beyond the imagination of their peers. Take me for example. I have the chance to defeat a 5th heaven martial saint. So, even if I break through and my strength increases a lot, it's still very dangerous to encounter some super abnormal experts. However, in general, there aren't many freakish super experts. Even if I encounter those experts, I have treasures to deal with them. To deal with an ordinary martial saint, the 5th sky of the martial saint realm is enough for me to fight. Li Lingtian looked at Xianyuan Yingying with a smile and told her about his abilities. Although he mentioned a few unexpected opportunities in the divine martial continent, he still managed to put Xianyuan Yingying at ease in the end. Moreover, he still had many methods to cultivate. Those divine powers were all heaven-defying existences. For example, God's fury descending from the heavens. These heaven-grade divine powers all had grades. The 3 moves of God's fury descending from the heavens also had 3 levels. He had only cultivated the 1st level. If he cultivated the 2nd level, it would be equivalent to a top-notch heaven-grade divine power. He might even reach the saint grade. As well as the true dragon body protection, these divine power cultivation techniques were all heaven-defying. As long as they were cultivated, they would be extremely terrifying. After that, Li Lingtian chatted with the girls for a long time. They were all talking about the war before they started talking about some fun topics. They were all husband and wife matters. Xianyuan Yingying, Ge, and Little White all retreated to their rooms. They were girls who had sex. Even though they were about the same age as Tang Zimeng and the others, they were not Li Lingtian's women after all. They did not have the face to stay in this place. In 2 days, I'll stabilize my realm and personally supervise the construction of the war god. Let's go and rest. Li Lingtian stood up and headed to his room. Huangfu Yuyan and Shun Mei followed him. After that, they returned to their respective residences. With the breakthrough in their cultivation and the increase in their strength, they could rest in peace. As for the battle, it didn't matter to him at all. He would only take action at the critical moment. Naturally, he would not delay his cultivation for the sake of the battle. He had to prioritize his training. If he could not even prioritize his training, he would not be Li Lingtian. For the next few days, Li Lingtian cultivated in Yuran Palace while Tang Genji and the other girls cultivated in Yuran Palace with Qingqing. From time to time, battle reports came from outside, all of which were good news. This was also something they had expected. As long as there were no accidents, the war would not fail. 7 million soldiers and 3 legions. With such a shocking lineup, what other country could resist the army of Qing Xian? Basically, none of the countries resisted and all of them surrendered. One by one, the various kingdoms submitted to Qing Xian. In order to protect the status of the royal family, they all submitted. However, Heaven Demon King, Marshal Saint Ming Luo, and Marshal Saint Yun Hao were also observing the royal family's situation. If it really didn't work, they could only replace them. Changing dynasties was because they didn't want parasites to appear under their rule, which would affect other countries. In 10 days, the 5 inferior kingdoms were united. A total of 12 inferior kingdoms were all united by Qing Xian. Qing Xian quickly reorganized their army. This was because they all understood that there was no reason to stop when the war began. They had to be prepared for the war at any time. If they were not careful, they would welcome the arrival of the war. As the commander-in-chief, Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others dared not be careless. They were Li Lingtian's men and understood his character and style. He would strike as he pleased without giving anyone any time to think. Just like before, the martial emperor powerhouses stayed behind and entered the divine martial army. Half of the martial saint powerhouses joined the army while the other half returned to Qing Xian to become Li Lingtian's guards. These powerhouses had been carefully selected. Even if they affected the army, they could not allow the dangerous martial saint to be by Li Lingtian's side. The kingdom was shaken, the 12 middle-tier kingdoms were shocked, and the 12 upper-tier kingdoms were eyeing them covetously, wanting to imitate Qing Xian. However, now that the Qing Xian kingdom had unified all the lower-tier kingdoms, their influence had greatly increased. With a huge army of tens of millions, the 3 legions were like wolves and tigers. They were bound to destroy the enemy. The tremors outside did not affect Li Lingtian's peaceful cultivation. After cultivating for a few days and stabilizing his realm, he left Yuran Palace and gathered all the array and artifact grandmasters. The war outside is coming. We can't just sit there and wait for death. We have to take the initiative to attack and sweep the world. Have you completed the mission I gave you? Li Lingtian came to the depths of the palace and asked loudly as he looked at the thousands of weapon refiners and array masters. He looked at all the experts with a sharp gaze and slowly sat down. We've completed young Master D's mission. We've comprehended the mysteries of arrays and the construction of the war god. We've completed young Master D's mission. We've understood the mysteries of refining and have the blueprint of the war god in our hearts. Over 1,000 grandmasters of array and craftsmanship answered respectfully, their hearts filled with excitement and admiration. They were puzzled when they saw Li Lingtian's blueprint. However, they were stunned when they realized the true power of the war god. They had never expected the war god to possess such heaven-defying power. They could not understand how Li Lingtian came up with this idea. This was simply a god-tier civilization of the divine martial continent. It was countless times more powerful than a spaceship. They didn't know how much wisdom one had to have to figure out the structure of the war god. Was this something a young man in his 20s could think of? They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death, but this blueprint had appeared in front of them. They could only accept the shock. Gradually, everyone was immersed in the blueprint, studying the structure and construction of the war god. He looked forward to the day when he could personally witness the appearance of the war god on the divine martial continent. He hoped that he could personally create the war god and achieve supreme glory. Alright, I hereby announce that the construction of the war god will begin today. Li Lingtian announced loudly with a faint smile on his face. He had personally built the war god in the past. Now that he was only building an enhanced version of the war god, he was naturally very confident. Furthermore, the materials had been fully prepared during this period of time. As long as these array masters and artifact masters comprehended the blueprints, they could build the war god. We'll start building the war god today. Today is the day to build the war god. That's great, that's really great. I want to personally build the war god and let it shock the entire divine martial continent. How many materials do you need? If we build the war god, we will be invincible in the war. Instantly, all the array masters and artifact masters were extremely excited. They didn't expect that the war god would be built today. They thought that even if they were to build the war god, it wouldn't be any time soon. Now, they could already imagine the glory of the war god's birth. They could also imagine the countless kingdoms trembling before the war god. This time, I will personally supervise it. This is an enhanced version of the war god. Therefore, there can't be any problems. Even the slightest flaw can't be left behind. A few years ago, I created a war god. Once the war god was released, it swept through the Azure continent and Qingzhou. This war god is countless times more powerful than before. It's on a completely different level, so all of you have to put in 120% of your effort to build it. Li Lingtian looked pleased when he saw everyone's excitement. However, the fact that the war god had appeared in the world was a good way to calm them down. However, after mentioning the enhanced version, he also emphasized the problem a lot. This way, these array masters and artifact masters would be able to focus 120% on completing the war god. Chapter 645, News of the Empty Spirit Pearl. They were shocked by Li Lingtian's words. They thought that the war god had never appeared before, but who would have thought that Li Lingtian had already built the war god? This time, the forging was only an enhanced version. They were extremely surprised. It seemed that this young Master D in front of them was not someone they could understand at all. However, the more this was the case, the more excited they were. They were looking forward to seeing how powerful the war god was. We will put all our efforts into the war god. All the powerhouses answered respectfully. Li Lingtian then looked at the blueprint again and asked some questions. He wanted to see if these people really understood the blueprint. Otherwise, not only would it be a waste of materials, but it would also affect the progress of the war god. 10 war gods would not take just 1 or 2 days. He hoped to complete all 10 war gods before the war between the kingdoms. This way, they would become the trump cards of the army. This time, we need to build a total of 10 war gods. However, this is your first time building such a huge warship. Therefore, you should try your best to build one. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he led all the powerhouses into the open space behind the palace. There was an open space with a radius of 1,000 miles behind the palace. It was left behind by the palace and had not been used yet. Moreover, the spiritual energy was very dense. This was the perfect place to build the war god. When they arrived at the empty space, they saw that countless array formations had been set up there. The array formations blocked the entire space. It was impossible for outsiders to peek into the situation inside. Inside, there were endless materials and thousands of martial arts grandmasters waiting. These people were all people of alchemy and craftsmanship. Although they couldn't really participate in the research, they needed to do it when building the war god. Following that, Li Lingtian selected 10 array masters and 10 craftsman masters to take charge of the construction of the war god. They were mainly responsible for the construction of the war god as well as handling some of the difficult issues. If they did not understand anything, they would look for Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian demanded that they be meticulous in every detail. The war god's forging started. Inside the array, more than 2,000 people were busy. As long as they had participated in the construction of the war god, they were not allowed to leave the formation before the war god was completed. There was a place to cultivate in the array formation, and there were also endless resources to use. This way, no one had anything to complain about. After all, the creation of the war god was a secret, and it required the full dedication of the people below. If they didn't put in the slightest bit of effort, it would affect the war god's power and success. After settling the construction of the war god, Li Lingtian left and returned to Yuran Palace. There were 2 holy array masters involved in the construction of the war god. The rest were all masters of arrays and crafts. They were all experts with rich experience. Naturally, they were not to be worried. After dealing with these matters, it would depend on luck and the movements of the kingdoms and other countries. If they didn't cause trouble for Qing Xian before the war god was completed, they would be lucky. If Qing Xian was attacked during this period of time, they would have to put in all their effort to accept the war between the other countries. After returning to Yuran Hall, Li Lingtian began to cultivate the 8 sounds of the heavenly demon. The first sound was the soul-drunken soul of all things, while the second sound was the heaven and earth destruction. The first sound was enough to destroy all the powerhouses below the martial emperor realm. If the second sound was executed to the extreme, it could instantly kill all the martial emperor realm powerhouses. Even a martial saint realm powerhouse might be killed. Li Lingtian managed to comprehend the third note from the Tianma zither. This third note was the life extermination war. The second note was enough to kill a martial saint, but it required a lot of effort. If one could comprehend and cultivate the third note, it would directly become the killing move of a martial saint. Li Lingtian could only cultivate the first and second notes to the extreme. He could only exert the third note with great difficulty. He had never used it before and dared not use it. This was because in the Qing Xian kingdom, in the imperial palace, this zither music had directly destroyed the entire palace. He could only use this move when he met a heaven-defying expert. He had no choice but to use it. Unless he had no other choice, he wouldn't use the third sound. The third sound was harmful to the heavens. From time to time, the palace was filled with the sound of nature. Everyone thought that it was Li Lingtian's wife playing the music, but they did not know that it was Li Lingtian himself. Coupled with Li Lingtian's zither music, Huang Fuyuyan and Tang Qingyue were able to unleash the 9 heavens, 10 earths, godly needles and butterfly shadow. With such a combination, they could kill without a trace. As Li Lingtian cultivated, he was also comprehending alchemy and nourishing various treasures. Occasionally, he would go to the array to supervise the construction of the war god. If there were any problems that he didn't understand, he could look for him to solve them. When he looked for him to solve them, he could also learn some mysterious things. All the array and craftsmanship geniuses who could not solve their problems were easily solved by Li Lingtian. They were all in awe of him. Similarly, Li Lingtian would refine some Tier 7 peerless pills every once in a while. Even though they were Tier 7 peerless pills, Li Lingtian only used the elixir Tribulation Thunder Essence for 1/3 of the time. After all, the pill Tribulation Thunder Essence would be used up once. He estimated that a single pill Tribulation Thunder Essence should be able to attract 100 pill tribulations. Therefore, he had to save a little so that he wouldn't run out of pill Tribulation Thunder Essence when he refined Tier 8 and Tier 9 medicinal pills in the future. Seeing that Li Lingtian had incurred a pill tribulation in 1/3 of the time he took to refine the pill, he immediately became the idol and admiration of countless alchemists. Even alchemists from other countries joined the Divine Pill House one after another. Although the Alchemist Guild had some influence, Li Lingtian himself belonged to it. The Alchemist Guild did not say anything as they knew that Li Lingtian was only using the alchemist profession to influence the battle. Besides, the Alchemist Guild was a place where the strong were respected. The stronger you were, the more respect you would receive from your peers. Li Lingtian's strength was undoubtedly a legend. No one could surpass him. Even a Tier 8 divine alchemist was no match for Li Lingtian. Even a Tier 9 divine pill refiner could not refine a supreme grade pill, let alone a mutated one. Even if they refined a mutated pill, it would not be supreme grade. Li Lingtian's future was limitless and it was not good to offend him. All he could do was turn a blind eye to it. Furthermore, the Alchemist Guild was openly getting close to Li Lingtian. As a result, countless powerhouses were stunned. They immediately understood that a figure like Li Lingtian must have been roped in by the Alchemist Guild and joined them. The Alchemist Guild was one of the top 10 super forces in the Divine Martial Continent. It was an unshakable force, and no one dared to provoke or offend it. Moreover, this Alchemist Guild was open and public. Alchemist experts came from the 5 continents, and alchemists from various forces were inside. 2/3 of the elixirs refined by Li Lingtian were sent to the army. The Martial Saints and Supreme Martial Emperor powerhouses received elixirs to enhance their cultivation. 1/3 of the elixirs were in the hands of the experts of the Freedom King dynasty. As long as they were experts of the Freedom King dynasty, they would have a chance to obtain them regardless of whether they joined or not. Moreover, Li Lingtian never needed to trade the pills he refined. Instead, he would gift them to powerhouses who were pleasing to his eyes or powerhouses who were about to make a breakthrough. Instantly, it attracted the attention of countless powerhouses. Li Lingtian would not be stingy even if it was an opposing powerhouse and would reward them as well. This was because he had once said that there were no eternal enemies and friends in the world. Regardless of whether you were an enemy or a friend, as long as you reached the right time and opportunity, as long as you reached the critical moment of breaking through, you would have a chance to obtain the medicinal pill. Such boldness had won the admiration of countless powerhouses. Even if they were enemies on the surface and were not convinced on the surface, they were already impressed by Li Lingtian in their hearts. They understood that they would not really go against Li Lingtian when they met him in the future. They had owed him a favor and they would lose in their hearts when they faced such a powerhouse. This kind of heaven-defying spirit was something that no one could achieve. However, Li Lingtian would not refine pills below Tier 6 because he was no longer interested. In Southern Peak City, martial saints and martial emperors could be seen from time to time. This was because they were looking forward to seeing Li Lingtian refine pills. They were hoping to obtain a peerless mutated great rejuvenating pill and advance to a higher realm. In the army, Li Lingtian was the soul of the army and he was like a god. No one dared to address Li Lingtian by his name. They could only address him as Young Master D or Saint Alchemist. Even if there were people with the same name as Li Lingtian, they could only change their names because Li Lingtian was a legend. As the days passed, Li Lingtian had just finished refining a cauldron of peerless grade great rejuvenating pills. He then returned to Yuran Palace to quickly elevate his cultivation base. The matter had come because it was very important. Young Lord, the Sky Spirit Pearl has appeared in the Heaven Fire Mountain range of the Yinfeng nation. Longda whispered to Li Lingtian when he saw him coming out. He repeated the news to Li Lingtian. A few days ago, Longda's subordinates who were searching for treasures and materials had heard that the empty spirit pearl had appeared in the Heaven Fire Mountain range of the Yinfeng nation. This empty spirit pearl was a supreme treasure. It could change the attributes of any expert and quickly increase the speed of a martial artist's cultivation. According to legend, the owner of this ethereal pearl could increase his cultivation speed by several times. Also, no matter what kind of spiritual energy it was, it could be transformed into the owner's own spiritual energy. The appearance of such a treasure immediately caused countless experts to fight for it. Even though there was still some time before the treasure appeared, countless experts had already formed factions and secretly killed their opponents. The powerhouses under Longda were all martial emperors and martial saints. This news had reached Longda immediately. Get ready. We must get this empty spirit pearl. Send half of the War God Legion to the Heavenly Fire Mountain range of the Yinfeng nation, but we cannot alert the enemy. Li Lingtian's face lit up with excitement when he heard that. Some time ago, he had felt that something was missing when he opened Qing Qing's ethereal body. Now that he had heard about the ethereal pearl, he was confident that he would be able to open Qing Qing's ethereal body completely as long as he obtained the ethereal pearl. Chapter 646. Heading to the Yinfeng nation. Since such a treasure had appeared, there would definitely be countless experts fighting for it. This was almost a treasure of fortune. With such a treasure, he could quickly increase his cultivation and reduce the time he spent cultivating. The Yinfeng nation was a top-tier nation. Among the top-tier nations, their strength was ranked in the top 5. Even the current Qing Xian nation was not a match for the Yinfeng nation. This time, there would definitely be countless experts who wanted to fight for the treasure. Martial emperors and martial saints would be everywhere. He didn't want to go alone. No matter how confident he was, he couldn't be so confident that he could resist all the experts in the world alone. Moreover, his identity was very sensitive. After being discovered by those experts, they would definitely kill him. There were 50 martial saint powerhouses in the War God Legion now. There was a high chance that he would bring more than 20 martial saint powerhouses to fight for the empty spirit pearl. At the very least, they would know who had obtained this treasure, and they could use the army to kill it. This subordinate will go and prepare now. After Long De bowed, he left the Yuran palace and headed outside. His current status was unmatched by anyone other than Li Lingtian. Everything he did was on behalf of Li Lingtian and everyone had to cooperate with him. Furthermore, he was Li Lingtian's guard and a loyal guard. Naturally, he had to consider everything for Li Lingtian. After Long De left, Li Lingtian went to Huangfu Yuyan's place and told her about the Void Spirit Pearl. Big brother Ling Tian wants to fight for the Spatial Spirit Pearl. Is it for Qing Qing? Xianyuan Yingying looked at Li Lingtian. Although she did not know what Li Lingtian wanted the empty pearl for, she could roughly guess that it was for Xianyuan Qingqing's empty spirit body. Previously, Li Lingtian had mentioned that Qing Qing's empty spirit body had not been fully activated and was missing something. Now, it seemed that it was obvious that he was fighting for the empty spirit pearl for Qing Qing. Yes. Qing Qing has an ethereal body. I thought about it and that ethereal pearl should be useful to her. Even if it doesn't work, I have to give it a try. This is a very good opportunity. I can't miss it easily. If I miss it, I'll regret it. Li Lingtian did not hide anything. It was not a bad thing anyway. It was just a risk. Moreover, this was also his personality. As long as he encountered a treasure, he would not let it go easily. Moreover, the treasure this time might be of great help to Qing Qing. She would rather kill the wrong person than let it go. Since it's an empty spirit pearl, there are many experts competing for such a treasure. There are naturally many martial emperors and martial saints in there. Moreover, the empty spirit pearl is in the Yinfeng nation, which is very far away from the Qing Xian nation. Our strength is beyond our reach. If you encounter a super expert who sees through your identity, you will suffer a destructive blow. Furthermore, it might even affect Qing Xian. Are you sure? Huangfu Yuyan looked at Li Lingtian seriously as she voiced out some of her questions. A few martial saint powerhouses were nothing, but a treasure fight would easily involve hundreds of super powerhouses. Moreover, Li Lingtian's identity was very sensitive. Once he was exposed, he would definitely be the target of those supreme powerhouses. In that case, it would be a devastating blow to Li Lingtian. Even if Li Lingtian obtained the treasure, he would bring all the powerhouses back to Qing Xian. By then, Qing Xian would face destruction. Don't worry, there won't be any problems. Even if there is, isn't it just Qing Xian? For Qing Qing, Qing Xian is nothing. At most, we can just leave this place. Li Lingtian replied with a smile. He knew that Huangfu Yuyan was worried about him. Similarly, it was not a good choice. On one side was Li Lingtian taking the risk, while on the other side was Qing Qing. In their eyes, Qing Qing was like their own daughter. Uncle, can you not go? Qing Qing doesn't want the empty spirit pearl, She only wants uncle. Xianyuan Qingqing was a sensible girl now. Naturally, she knew that Li Lingtian was going on an adventure and it was a very dangerous one. Otherwise, her aunts would have advised him otherwise. She also knew that Li Lingtian had taken the risk to fight for the empty spirit pearl for her. It should be an important item that would be of great help to her. However, she did not want Li Lingtian to take the risk. Even if he did not cultivate, she did not want him to take the risk. Qingqing, be good. Do you really not trust Imperial Uncle? Imperial Uncle is the strongest. No one can defeat him. I will go and easily retrieve the Void Spirit Pearl. At that time, you will be able to cultivate quickly. When Imperial Uncle gets old in the future, you will have to take care of us. So, you have to listen to your aunt and the others. I'll be back soon. Li Lingtian reached out to caress Qingqing's little face and smiled. Only then did he have the feeling of home. He had a wife, a child, and a family to worry about. No matter when, no matter what kind of danger, the first thing to think of was your family. The concern of your family was the greatest encouragement and courage. Of course, I believe Imperial Uncle. Imperial Uncle is the most powerful person in the world. But Qingqing doesn't want Imperial Uncle to take risks. Anyway, she doesn't want Imperial Uncle to take risks. Xianyuan Qingqing nodded, but she did not want Li Lingtian to take the risk. She would rather have Li Lingtian and not be able to cultivate herself than have Li Lingtian take the risk. Be good and listen to Imperial Uncle. Yu Yan, I will leave the Battle God Legion in Qingxian. As long as you don't leave the palace, I will rush back as soon as possible. Li Lingtian turned around and left the living room without looking at Xianyuan Qingqing. If this continued, Xianyuan Qingqing would definitely cling on to him. It wasn't early now, so he had to go to Yinfenghua and make some preparations there. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the slightest confidence or chance when the time came. After leaving the room, he changed the aura of his entire body. His aura was extremely strange, and a faint demonic aura wrapped around his body. His appearance had also turned extremely demonic. If it were not for Tang Qingyue and the others, they would never have recognized Li Lingtian. There were quite a few demons in the Mystic Continent, but not as many as the ones in the Serenity Plains. It was normal for Li Lingtian to assume the appearance of a demon. In this way, he could shift the blame to the demons of Yuzhou. Thinking of this, he felt extremely relaxed. After doing everything, his figure strangely disappeared. Before he left, Longda had already secretly rushed to the Yinfeng kingdom. Although Longda's strength was only at the 7th level, his true strength was at the 1st or 2nd sky of the Martial Saint realm. Even a Martial Saint at the 1st or 2nd sky might not be able to kill him. Moreover, Longda's killer move, the Poisonous Fog, was a deadly nemesis for martial artists. Longda rarely used such a killer move because Li Lingtian did not want Longda to expose it. The girls were worried as they watched Li Lingtian disappear before their eyes. However, they did not stop him at all because Li Lingtian had his reasons for doing what he did. They could not help much but silently support him from behind. However, Qingqing was still a child and did not understand this. She could not stop crying as she watched Li Lingtian leave. Yinfeng Nation was one of the 12 upper-class nations in Moon Song Kingdom, and it was also the most powerful upper-class nation. Even a martial emperor powerhouse would need to fly for more than 10 days to reach a place hundreds of millions of miles away from Qingxian. Li Lingtian flew at a moderate pace with a pitch-black demonic sword beneath his feet. It was emanating a faint demonic aura, and one could tell at a glance that he was a demon powerhouse. The devil race was not powerful in the Black Continent, so humans did not have much dislike for the devil race. Moreover, there were countless experts who cultivated devil arts. Such devil cultivators were very normal. After leaving Qingxian, Li Lingtian felt even more relaxed and free. The demonic sword beneath his feet flew at high speed while he looked at the void in a relaxed manner. Although the empty spirit pearl had appeared in the Yinfeng Nation, not many people knew about it. Those who knew about it were all super experts, and most of them were gathered around the Yinfeng Nation. In the Qing Xian nation, no one knew about it. Therefore, Li Lingtian rarely encountered powerhouses who headed to the Yinfeng nation. Even if they did, it was not necessarily to seek the Void Spirit Pearl. As Li Lingtian flew, he admired the scenery below. Looking at the terrified expressions of countless low-level warriors, Li Lingtian recalled the time when he was still a warrior spirit and a warrior king and grandmaster. At that time, he was a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers and dared to do anything. 10 years passed in a flash. During these 10 years, he had experienced countless tortures and experienced countless life and death situations. In 10 years, he had advanced from a martial apprentice to a martial emperor, becoming a supreme legend and creating his era. In the past, Li Lingtian never thought that he would one day stand at the top of the pyramid of powerhouses. He never thought that he would become a martial supreme. 10 years seemed like just yesterday. What could he do in 10 years? There was only one answer. A genius would become an existence that ordinary people looked up to in 10 years. Ordinary people would only waste 10 years of their lives and be 10 years closer to death. To Li Lingtian, the past 10 years were his legend. It was his legend. In just 10 years, he had achieved what others had achieved over hundreds or even thousands of years. There was not a single Li Lingtian among billions of people. Even in the entire divine martial continent, he was the only Li Lingtian. Although he had reached the martial monarch realm, he was still working hard. This was because the path of the strong was to advance or retreat. He had to improve at all times. Moreover, after becoming a martial supreme, he understood how shallow he was in the past and how terrifying this world was. Only by becoming a supreme expert could he control his own fate and even the fate of others. Boom! Unknowingly, Li Lingtian had entered a mountain range. He didn't know the name of this place, but it was already very far away from Qing Xian. However, they were still countless tens of thousands of miles away from the Yinfeng nation. As they flew, they recalled their thoughts, and without paying attention, they actually entered the depths of the mountain range. A destructive attack came crashing towards him. His instinctive reaction made his body move strangely and escape from this destructive attack. At the same time, killing intent appeared in his heart. Someone actually dared to attack him. Wasn't this courting death or what? Today's 30 tickets are the last one. Please give me monthly votes, recommendation votes, tips, and reviews. If there are more tickets, I'll give you 30 tickets tomorrow. Chapter 647, The Real Trash. 1. The destructive attack exploded in the air. Li Lingtian hovered in the air as he watched the destructive attack with a faint smile on his face. However, there was killing intent in his smile. He was angry. Eh! In the depths of the forest below, a surprised voice sounded. Li Lingtian had already spotted the other party in his divine consciousness. It was a young man dressed in a demonic red robe. There were a few middle-aged men not far away. The young man's body was filled with a terrifying aura. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the 8th heaven martial emperor realm. The few middle-aged men beside him seemed to be the guards of the young man in red. Their cultivation bases were all at the 9th level of the martial emperor realm. With 7 middle-aged men and a young man, even a first sky of the martial saint realm expert might not be able to do anything to them. These people probably saw that his cultivation was not high and took it for fun. Even a fool like Li Lingtian would understand this. Since he dared to play with him, he had to play with him properly. Since this world was governed by the law of the jungle, he would let these people know the meaning of the law of the jungle. Wouldn't he be courting death if he wanted to play with him? Not to mention a martial emperor, even the Windcloud martial saint of the 10 great martial saints had been defeated by him. Moreover, it was before he had broken through. If he had met the Windcloud martial saint when he had reached the 5th heaven of the martial emperor realm, he would definitely have died. Although he did not plan to kill the Windcloud martial saint, the increase in his strength proved how terrifying he was. Sir, this seems too much. Li Lingtian hovered in the air as the demonic chi around his body surged. He looked at the red-robed young man coldly and spoke indifferently. His tone was not as arrogant as before, but rather timid. "You're courting death. How dare you speak to our eldest young master like this? Why aren't you kneeling down and apologizing? Otherwise, you will die without a complete corpse." One of the ninth firmament martial emperor powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian, who was in the air. Li Lingtian was still a fifth firmament martial emperor and did not hide his cultivation. In a place like the Black Continent, even a martial monarch realm expert was nothing. If one's cultivation was low, they would be killed at any time. "I didn't provoke you, right? Could it be that this place belongs to you?" Li Lingtian said with a smile. Even if he had to fool these people, he would not lose his dignity. At the very least, he still needed to address them. Otherwise, he would lose too many points if he had to address them by his original name for a few trash. "This place isn't ours, but the strong are respected. You're unlucky, so you deserve to die." The 7 Ninth Heaven Martial Emperor powerhouses figures floated in the air and surrounded Li Lingtian. The young man was also in the air. He looked at Li Lingtian with disdain as if he was looking at a dead man. The look in his eyes made Li Lingtian feel uncomfortable. However, he had already made up his mind that this man was doomed. Even if the heavenly god came, he would not be able to save him. "Humph, devil cultivator, a useless devil cultivator. Destroy your cultivation and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, you'll die. Don't ask me why, because I see you as trash." The young man in red looked at Li Lingtian coldly as he spoke. He was like a king who stood high above and looked down at Li Lingtian with disdain. The first thing he said was for Li Lingtian to destroy his cultivation. For a powerhouse, destroying his cultivation was worse than death. This young man was truly vicious. Even Li Lingtian would either wipe out his opponent or let him go. He would not be as vicious as this young man who crippled his opponent's cultivation. "Destroy your own cultivation? Ha, you are destined to be destroyed. You are really unlucky to have met me. Otherwise, you would really be able to live. It's just that it's your misfortune to meet me. Tremble and regret, haha." Li Lingtian burst into laughter. There was no point in playing around with such a useless person. The playfulness he had in the beginning had disappeared. He didn't want to waste any more time and affect his mood. He would just kill them and leave. They were just a few pieces of trash. "You don't know your place. Do you think you're a martial saint? Even if it's a martial saint, we'll still wipe him out. Since you won't cripple your own cultivation, then I'll let you know what it means to wish you were dead." A few middle-aged experts said fiercely. They looked at the red-robed young man, waiting for his opinion. "Kill him. I don't want to play anymore." The young man in red showed a look of impatience as he waved his hand, signaling for Li Lingtian to be killed. Dragon-slaying sword. One of the middle-aged Ninth Heaven martial emperors could not wait to swing the sword in his hand. Instantly, a shocking sword radiance slashed down at Li Lingtian. Such an attack was used by the strong to deal with the weak. There was not the slightest bit of content and it completely ignored Li Lingtian. A Ninth Heaven martial emperor could easily crush a Fifth Heaven martial emperor. Naturally, there was no need for any heaven-defying ultimate moves. Die! Li Lingtian had no intention of making a move when he saw the sword ray approaching. When the powerhouses saw that Li Lingtian did not dodge or retaliate, they thought that he was scared out of his wits. However, they saw the disdain in Li Lingtian's eyes. When he looked at them, it was as if he was looking at a dead man. The look in his eyes was similar to when the young man in red looked at Li Lingtian. Seeing this gaze, the few experts were furious. At that moment, the sword ray had already arrived before Li Lingtian. The powerhouses and the red-robed young man could almost see Li Lingtian's destruction. However, what happened next made the eyes of the few experts freeze. They could not believe what they were seeing. Li Lingtian's aura underwent a strange change as a destructive sword will soared into the sky. After the sword will, Li Lingtian waved his finger like a sharp sword. With this wave, the power of heaven and earth appeared. His finger was like a sharp sword, carrying sword power to break the sword light. The sword power directly pierced through the sword light and slashed towards the expert who used the sword light. Pfft! With a muffled sound, the expert who used the sword light spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, his body was split into two. His vitality disappeared at this moment, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness and ashen ashes. The sky was eerily quiet. The remaining 9th-level martial emperors stared at Li Lingtian in a daze. The red-dressed young man was also shocked. A 9th heaven martial emperor had taken the initiative to attack and died just like that. Wasn't this white-dressed young man too terrifying? Could it be that this young man was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger from the beginning? The strong are respected. Indeed, the strong are respected. Li Lingtian's eyes flashed as his figure disappeared in a strange manner. At that moment, the remaining 6 9th-level martial emperors had no chance to resist. From the beginning to the end, the few martial emperors did not move at all. However, the 6 martial emperor powerhouses revealed a look of despair in their eyes. Pfft! Pfft! A series of blood-spurting sounds rang out as his body fell rapidly. The young man in red watched as the guards died in an instant. He did not even know how they died. He was already extremely afraid. I don't want to play anymore. Trash! Li Lingtian said with a smile. With a grab of his hand, a strange force wrapped around the young man in red. The young man in red then flew toward Li Lingtian at high speed. However, it did not fly over on its own. Instead, it was captured by Li Lingtian. Floating 5 meters away from Li Lingtian, it was trembling in horror and its eyes were pleading. Please spare my life. I was blind and offended you. As long as you let me go, I will repay you. I am the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom. The young man in red begged for mercy. His face was begging, but his heart was filled with killing intent. As long as he let him go, he would call for experts to kill this detestable young man. Oh, it's the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom. No wonder he's so arrogant. Do you know who I am? Li Lingtian shook his head. He was utterly speechless at the young man in red before him. At a time like this, he actually used Moonsong Kingdom to threaten him. Wasn't this courting death? Even if he didn't directly threaten him, it was a disguised threat. Whoever offended the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom would definitely be courting death. Who would let him off at this time? He would be killed to silence him. Who are you? The young man in red was also curious. Who was so powerful that they could kill his guards without a sound? Li Lingtian. You can die now. Li Lingtian said coldly as he stared coldly at the red-robed young man before him, the so-called first prince of Moonsong Kingdom. Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian. Your Excellency, Supreme Alchemy Saint, I'm Qing Xian's young Emperor Li Lingtian. The young man in red was puzzled at first. He could not recall who Li Lingtian was at the moment, but he soon recalled the most powerful and terrifying legend of this period of time, Li Lingtian. Thinking of this, his heart turned ashen. Encountering this super alchemy saint, wasn't this courting death? He had even defeated the Wind Cloud Martial Saint of the 10 Great Martial Saints. He was just a martial emperor. What hope did he have? Ah! Before he could beg for mercy again, his entire body's vital essence was rapidly draining away. His bones felt as though they were being torn apart. As his vital essence was draining away, it was completely devoured by Li Lingtian's devouring light. In the blink of an eye, the cultivation of the young man in red disappeared, and so did his vitality. He couldn't be any more dead. Trash, he really is trash. Li Lingtian looked at the fallen corpses of the martial emperor powerhouses and grabbed at the air with one hand. With a few swings, several storage pouches flew into his hand and he found a storage pouch on the red-clad young man. With a tap of his hand, a burst of flames turned the red-robed youth into ashes. His figure flashed, and he quickly rode the demonic sword into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he was already 1,000 miles away. What had happened just now was just a small interlude. He had just killed a few martial emperor powerhouses by using the demon race's skill to temporarily imprison them and kill them in an instant. Naturally, the young man in red and the few martial emperor powerhouses did not know about these skills. They had never heard of them before. Not to mention them, even many demon race powerhouses might not have heard of them before, let alone seen them. Chapter 648, Skyfire County. They flew at high speed and didn't meet any more ignorant fellows along the way. After all, there were not many people like the red-clad young man who could mess around with his backing. Fortunately, he had met Li Lingtian. If it were any other martial emperor powerhouse, they would have perished by now. Looking at the red-clothed young man's attitude and appearance, there must have been countless experts who suffered losses in the past. In the future, this red-robed young man would never appear again. However, he didn't know that he had already provoked the Moonsong Kingdom. In the capital of Moonsong Kingdom, Moonsong Sky City, the Imperial Palace occupied a radius of 10,000 miles. Within the Imperial Palace, there was dense spirit energy everywhere. In the entire Moonsong Sky City, the spirit energy in the Imperial Palace was the densest. In the depths of the Imperial Palace, a middle-aged man wearing a purple crown had an angry expression on his face. His entire body emitted a powerful aura, and he even had the aura of a superior. The third sky of the Martial Saint realm had a frosty look in his eyes. He was the king of the Moonsong Kingdom, Wanyan Nu. At this moment, his name was exactly the same as his appearance. His anger soared to the sky, and his dragon face was greatly shaken because the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom had just fallen. The destruction of the bead of life meant that the first prince had fallen. In the Moonsong Kingdom, there was actually someone who dared to attack the first prince and even kill him. This was undoubtedly a slap in the face for the Moonsong Kingdom. Even though he knew that he was the first prince who was showing off everywhere, he was still the first prince of the kingdom. He was extremely talented and had reached the 7th level of the Martial Emperor realm in just 50 years. This cultivation was definitely a heaven-defying genius in the Moonsong Kingdom. Damn it, it's too damn. This king wants to tear him into pieces. Wanyan Nu's dragon face was furious. He slapped his palm on the dragon throne. The purple gold dragon throne was shaken until it buzzed. If it wasn't for the fact that this dragon throne was reinforced by an array, the dragon throne would have disappeared. Under the king's fury, countless subjects were terrified. They didn't dare to speak, afraid of being unlucky. Everyone lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at Wanyan Nu. The destructive force raged, and the atmosphere in the entire palace was extremely strange. Your Majesty, have you found the person who harmed the first prince? At this time, an old man walked in from outside the palace. His face was calm, and he wasn't afraid of the king. After entering the palace, he bowed to Wanyan Nu and found a seat. His expression was still calm. Everyone in the hall heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the old man. Because of this old man, the king wouldn't be angry at them anymore. This old man was the consecrator of the Moonsong Kingdom. He was a super martial emperor and one of the 10 great martial saints. He was ranked 9th and was not much different from the Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Martial Saint Fengyun was ranked 8th while he was ranked 9th. However, their strengths were almost the same. He was ranked 9th among the 10 great martial saints, and his cultivation was extremely terrifying. No one had ever seen his true strength. He was extremely vicious and his actions were extremely strange. Venerable One, the first prince was killed just now and disappeared from the North Moon Kingdom. As for who killed the first prince, I'm not sure either. I'll send someone to investigate now. I'll have to trouble Venerable One when the time comes. When Wanyan Nu saw the old man, his expression slowly calmed down. He told him the time when his bead of life disappeared and the approximate location where the first prince died. He also understood that if he knew who killed the first prince, he would send a martial saint over. He might not be able to get Heavenly Knight to appear, but if he encountered a super martial saint, he would definitely have to find Heavenly Knight. He had to hold Heavenly Knight back first so that he would not have to invite him again. If I can't solve it, I can make a move at that time. I am here to see the situation. This guy was defeated by a martial emperor. He's really disgraced the 10 great martial saints. A sinister smile appeared on Tian-E Knight's face. He had always been at odds with the Windcloud martial saint because of the ranking. He had always wanted to surpass the Windcloud martial saint, but he could not. This time, the Fengyan martial saint was defeated by a martial emperor powerhouse. Naturally, he would not let go of such a matter. Give the order to find that damned person. When the time comes, I will make him wish he was dead. Wang Yannu looked at the other experts below and said loudly. How could he not be furious that he had killed a super genius of the kingdom? Moreover, this genius was the prince of the kingdom and his own son. Naturally, Li Lingtian did not know that he had caused trouble. In fact, even if he did, he would not regret it. In any case, he had already provoked the kingdom and made countless countries covetous. It was nothing to provoke Wang Yannu. The demonic sword carried traces of demonic qi as it rapidly flew into the distance. After flying for a full 3 days, it finally arrived within the borders of the Yinfeng nation. After finding the approximate location of the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range, Li Lingtian flew to the nearest commandery in the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. Tianhua County was a commandery under Yinfeng country. Even if it was a commandery, it was a commandery of a superior country. It was powerful and had a vast territory. Even the Qing Xian country in the past could not be compared to this commandery. This was the strength of the superior countries. A commandery could be compared to a country. Young master, everything has been arranged. Among the 20 guards, there are 5 who have already roped in some experts. The condition is that they will receive your protection and hope to obtain your peerless grade great cyclic pellet. Less than half an hour after Li Lingtian entered an inn, Longda found him and reported to him about the arrangement of the guards. Have you figured out the situation of the treasure fight this time? There were some things that he didn't need to care about, but he had to care about the treasures. He had come here specifically to figure out what was going on. Otherwise, it would be a waste to come here for nothing. Moreover, this period of time was very sensitive, and he was worried that the other kingdoms would plot against him. The ethereal pearl has been confirmed. There's already a Saint Array Master and 7 Array Dao Grandmasters who have confirmed it. They're all opening that ethereal space. The ethereal pearl will appear from time to time, but the time it appears is very short. There's also a powerful and mysterious restriction outside. Even a martial saint expert will find it difficult to obtain it. I have to break the restriction before I can really take out the Void Spirit Pearl. Moreover, there are about 800 martial emperor powerhouses so far. There are more than 100 Ninth Heaven martial emperors and more than 100 martial saint powerhouses. Even martial saint Qingmi, who is ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints, is here. Young master is mainly paying attention to martial saint Qingmi and the other 4 5th sky martial saints. There's one more person. We don't know his cultivation base or if he wants to fight for the empty spirit pearl. It's a young man in purple. He doesn't have any aura, but he gives off a dangerous feeling. General Long had heard about it during this period of time. His subordinates had already spread to every corner of the Moonsong Kingdom. Not only were there martial emperors and martial supremes, but there were also martial emperors and martial saints. These people never took action. They only gathered information and passed important information to Longda. They were also one of the most mysterious existences in the Freedom King dynasty. As long as they did not reveal their identities, even the people in Freedom King dynasty would not know about them. Only Li Lingtian, Longda and Martial Saint Ming Luo knew about them. These pieces of information were of utmost importance. After all, the powerhouses who were fighting for the treasure had to be aware of each other to avoid becoming the Oriole. Li Lingtian wanted to be the final hunter, not the Oriole or cannon fodder. In the Yinfeng nation, the moment the treasure appeared, countless spies had entered the Yinfeng nation. The experts under Longda had also thoroughly investigated these experts. Although there were still many experts who hid their identities and did not enter the Skyfire County, at least most of the people were under their control. And, when the time comes, you guys will act according to the situation. As hunters, don't be Orioles. I will act from behind. Unless it's absolutely necessary, don't help me, lest you all fall along with me. Reduce the casualties. Use the smallest losses to obtain this empty spirit pearl. Li Lingtian replied calmly before he fell into deep thought. There were hundreds of martial emperor powerhouses and hundreds of martial saint powerhouses. These were only the powerhouses who had surfaced. There should be a portion of super powerhouses hiding. They were also existences who wanted to be hunters. Li Lingtian did not want to run into these superpowers. Unless he had no other choice, he should not fight against a fifth heaven martial saint. After all, it would be a life and death battle. Moreover, there were other super experts eyeing him covetously. Even if he won by a narrow margin, he would become cannon fodder for others. Whoever made the first move was a fool and the first person to die. During this period of time, don't worry about me. I will appear when the time comes. Do as you see fit. Just find out the whereabouts of the Void Spirit Pearl. After a long time, Li Lingtian opened his eyes and spoke to Longde. After that, he waved Longde away. Since the treasure did not appear, there was no need for him to appear. Even if the treasure appeared, with so many super experts, they couldn't die in a short time. Only when the real treasure fell into the hands of a super martial saint could it decide the outcome of the battle. The other martial saints and martial emperors were at the bottom. If a martial emperor wanted to die, he could compete for it. As long as one had some brains, they would not compete with martial saints for treasures. Even if they obtained the treasure, they would only be chased to death. There was no hope of enjoying it. He wanted to take advantage of this period of time to have a good rest and recuperate. He also thought that there were definitely many people like him. After Longde left, Li Lingtian went to a room in the isolated courtyard to rest. There were a few simple restrictions in the isolated courtyard to prevent any powerhouses from spying on him. However, in the room where he slept, there were more than 10 super arrays that could almost be called divine arrays. This was because the place where he slept could not be threatened at all. Otherwise, he would not be able to rest and cultivate in peace. I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage Myriad Ancient King. I welcome everyone to read and save it. I also want to vote for it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 649, Skyfire Mountain Range. In the room, Li Lingtian cultivated leisurely. After cultivating, he would either comprehend alchemy techniques, nourish treasures, or comprehend a few treasures that he had no control over. Or he could just sleep. The only thing was that he would not let himself get tired during this period of time. He would reach his peak mental state and prepare to fight for the treasure. The Skyfire mountain range was said to be endless. The entire mountain range was a world of endless flames. The power of the raging flames could be felt from thousands of miles away. The martial artists in Skyfire County had fire martial souls because only those with fire martial souls could survive in this place. This place was filled with fire spiritual chi. Warriors with martial souls of other attributes had no chance to cultivate here. The strong and dense fire spiritual energy made the flames in the entire mountain range stronger. The stronger the flames, the denser the fire spiritual energy. This cycle was enough to support any fire expert to cultivate here without affecting the spiritual energy foundation of the Heaven Fire mountain range. But during this period of time, countless super experts came to this Heavenly Fire mountain range. These powerhouses were all existences above the martial supreme realm. There were nearly 1,000 of them. Even though these experts had arrived at the Heavenly Fire mountain range, not many of them entered the mountain range. They were all waiting outside the mountain range. After all, the mountain range was a world of flames. Martial Emperor powerhouses could enter it and survive for a few days. However, it consumed a lot of true origin. Unless they had no other choice, they would not enter the mountain range. However, there were countless fire-type powerhouses cultivating in the mountain range, waiting for the appearance of treasures. The appearance of the ethereal pearl caused countless experts to gather together. Almost all of them were in groups of 3 to 5. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded, and the earth trembled. However, countless experts completely ignored it because they had appeared in this place many times during this period of time. Almost every day, there would be many experts fighting here. When enemies met, or when they did not agree, they would fight. Experts had their own faces and personalities, but there were quite a few times when they clashed with each other, and shocking battles would occur at any time. Why, boom! Great battles occurred from time to time. Similarly, where there was a great battle, experts would die. In this place, even if they won by a narrow margin, the victor would still die because there were other experts who would beat them up when they were down. Today, just like before, countless experts were waiting outside the mountain range, but their divine senses and attention were looking inside the mountain range. Boom! A shocking spiritual energy soared into the sky. It was also an explosion, but this explosion excited all the experts. Because this explosion and spiritual chi appeared in the center of the mountain range, a huge and intense fire-type spiritual chi soared into the sky, just like the spirit infusion impact of a saint alchemist refining medicinal pills. The shocking fire elemental spiritual energy soared into the sky, and all the experts could see it clearly. In the depths of the mountain range, 8 powerful figures soared into the sky. They all surrounded the shocking spiritual energy. The spiritual energy did not disappear for a long time. On the contrary, it became stronger and stronger as the fire-type spiritual energy became denser. The 8 super experts were all array grandmasters. There was even a sacred array master among them. One after another, the 8 array formation grandmasters' array seals fused together and quickly suppressed the spiritual energy. Walala! Chi-chi, rumble! Rumble! In the mountain range, there was a shocking explosion, a mysterious strange sound, and the space trembled. The 8 super experts did not leave the spiritual energy. Instead, they cast spells in an attempt to suppress the spiritual energy. Seeing the scene in the depths of the mountain range, all the experts no longer hesitated. Their figures flashed and quickly flew into the mountain range. Countless experts were like moths to a flame in front of the heavenly fire mountain range, which was like a world of flames. They flew into the mountain range without any prior experience. However, he did not know that he might not be able to come out again. No one knew how many experts would die inside, but people would die for wealth, and birds would die for food. For this empty spirit pearl, they were all willing to take a gamble. After a short while, all the experts at the edge of the Skyfire mountain range had disappeared. All of them had returned to the depths of the mountain range and were looking at the 8 super experts from afar. Chi-chi! Crash! Time slowly passed. After a full half an hour, the 8 super array grandmasters were sweating profusely. Finally, with a soft sound, the shocking spiritual energy was suppressed in front of a huge array net. At the place where the spiritual energy disappeared, a huge light shield appeared. The light shield was 100 meters wide. It was impossible to tell what color it was, but there was a fist-sized bead inside the light shield. The bead emitted a faint mysterious aura. The aura was covered by the light shield and could not be transmitted out. All the experts could only know that this pearl was the empty spirit pearl. Thousands of experts revealed greedy looks in their eyes. They all stared at the empty spirit pearl, but no one dared to fight for it. We 1v done our job. The rest is up to you. An array master said calmly. When the other array masters looked at this person, their eyes were filled with respect. From the looks of it, this old man was a sacred array master in the array path. Otherwise, he would not have received the respect of an array grandmaster. This time, they agreed to help open the spiritual energy that suppressed this place and get the empty spirit pearl out. However, all the experts paid 500 million spirit stones. Thank you, Lord Yuntian. When all the experts heard the old man's words, they all thanked him politely. Even if they did not know who the final owner of this treasure was, they did not dare to offend Yun Tian in the slightest. One had to know that even if array Dao masters were not as heaven-defying as alchemy masters, their status was not much different from alchemy masters. This was because the array Dao of sects and countries were all created by these array Dao masters. Countless experts had Lord Yun Tian's array Dao in their hands. They naturally would not easily offend this sacred array master. A sacred array master was almost on par with a sacred alchemy master. This ethereal pearl will automatically break the restriction in an hour. However, if we don't leave the Skyfire Mountain Range in an hour, we will return to the Skyfire Mountain Range. At that time, even we won't be able to get it out. Lord Yun Tian said indifferently. After he finished speaking, his figure flashed and disappeared into the air. When he reappeared, he was already 100 miles away. Looking at Lord Yun Tian's movement technique and his ability, they were shocked. This wasn't teleportation, because teleportation had spatial fluctuations. However, this Lord Yun Tian ignored the space of 100 miles and directly crossed 100 miles. Such a method could only be used by array path super experts. Because array formation experts had good control over space, their movement techniques were naturally powerful. If Li Ling Tian were to witness Lord Yun Tian's methods, he would be shocked. He would never have thought that there was another person who had mastered the dimension-shrinking divine ability. This was also an innate ability that only a holy array master could control. Among billions of holy array masters, there might not even be one who could control spatial bending. No matter what profession it wasn't as if one could control the innate divine ability of that realm as long as they reached that realm. Li Ling Tian had mastered the divine array diagram and could easily cross realms. Similarly, he had mastered the omniscient power of spatial shrinking. Furthermore, with the spatial banner and thunderclap wings, he could easily cross 500 miles. However, it consumed a lot of quintessential essence. It was several times stronger than this Lord Yun Tian. However, he had never used such a divine power before. After Master Yun Tian left, the other array masters looked at the empty spirit pearl and then at the experts present. They sighed in their hearts and quickly disappeared. Compared to Lord Yun Tian, they were completely insignificant. They were smart people. Everyone here was a martial emperor or martial saint. There were even rumors that the powerhouses among the 10 great martial saints were here. With their cultivation base at the 9th level martial emperor realm, it would be a joke if they wanted to obtain the empty spirit pearl. Even Master Yun Tian at the 2nd sky of the martial saint realm had no intention of fighting for the empty spirit pearl. Naturally, they were even less qualified. The empty pearl will appear in an hour. Those who want to get the empty pearl, kill them first. Or get out of the heavenly fire mountain range. A 3rd sky martial saint expert said loudly. He looked at all the experts with a sharp gaze. A 3rd sky martial saint's shocking aura wreaked havoc in the space. He looked at the other level 4 and level 5 experts without any fear. However, he did not look down on this level 3 expert because he was a super genius who could possibly enter the 10 great martial saints. Killing? Who the fuck is a fool? We will definitely have to wait until the empty pearl appears before we fight for it. Another level 3 expert also spoke loudly. His eyes were looking at the expert who had spoken earlier. It was obvious that his words were aimed at the person who had spoken earlier. Instantly, countless martial emperor powerhouses were stunned. This place was the world of martial saints. They were just existences that were courting death. 6 swoosh, swoosh. Whoosh, whoosh, in an instant, countless martial emperor powerhouses quickly flew into the distance. They said that it was better to leave in pain than to die without hope. He left far away and watched from afar. He did not really plan to leave. He also hoped that he would gain some benefits during the battle of the martial saints. There was no need to think about the empty spirit pearl. At the very least, he could obtain the treasure of a fallen martial saint. This way, his trip would not be in vain. In just a short while, there were only over 109th heaven martial emperors and over 100 martial saints left in the center of the mountain range. Since you're courting death, I'll send you off first. The two level 3 experts immediately started fighting. The other experts watched as the two martial saints fought. Rumble. Rumble. The battle between the two-third sky martial saints was earth-shattering. The other martial saints revealed cold killing intent in their eyes. Pfft. Several super experts attacked at the same time. Instantly, the two-third sky experts disappeared. However, before they died, a destructive true origin power bombarded a fourth sky martial saint expert. The battle continued to spread. As long as there was an injured martial saint, the other martial saints would not hesitate to kill him at the same time. Instantly, the entire Heavenly Fire mountain range was like hell on earth. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.